Yeah.
Okay.
Ja, wo man von Deutschland hierher kommt, das macht auch keinen großen Unterschied. Genau, ja. Ja, unser ehemaliger Präsident. Der ist noch in Wildau. Der war letztes Jahr Bürgermeister. Das hat knapp nicht geklappt. Aber er ist noch sehr aktiv, wir sehen ihn regelmäßig. Ja, ja.
Рады приветствовать вас в стенах Казахстанского университета. Как вы знаете, ежегодно Казахстанско-немецкий университет становится площадкой, где эксперты логистической отрасли собираются, обсуждают актуальные вопросы. Этот год тоже не стал исключением. В этом году совместно с нашими партнерами, с университетом Митвайда, CAREC институт, Азиатский банк развития и при поддержке Азиатского банка развития и Германской службы академического обмена мы проводим свой 11-й логистический форум. Поэтому, прежде чем начать работу нашего форума, я бы хотел пригласить с приветственным словом президента нашего университета, президента Казахстанского немецкого университета, господина Волода Робина.
Good morning, everybody. I speak in English because we are living in an international world, but I still have to struggle with my Russian or even with my Kazakh, so I prefer to speak in English. Sorry for that. This is the first conference I'm going to open at half past eight. So I see logistics means you have to be an early bird. That's true, because if you have the first mover advantage, you know to handle the place, to manage everything what's going on. Logistics has a very strong tradition at our university since so many years. So I'm really proud that I'm going to open this 11th Logistics Forum this time. And there's an amazing progress because we have friends from Saxonia here. And we are integrating our logistics forum, the East-West Forum from Mittweida. This is a new situation for all of us, and I think it's a promising situation because we are broadening our network in different directions. If I see the list of speakers we have this year, I see that we will have really good discussions, dialogues about different topics today. And the next day will be particular for students as well. It will be an excursion. This is already an essential part of having that experience as well, because we are practical driven. We are a university, but we don't think just in theoretical terms about logistics. we are thinking all about in practical terms what it means to use simulations we have for development of logistics routes in different directions. And you see, my university is going with our logistics customers, I would say, because we have started to have a second location here in Kazakhstan, in Aktau. I promise you next year we are going and have that log forum in Aktau. So we were waiting this year for the funding of the European Union, but they were too late, so sorry. So now we have it again in Almaty. But next time we will be in, next year we will be in Aktau. And this is not only the only place we are going, that we are moving forward this university. There will be a third place. This will be in eastern Kazakhstan. We will open an institute together there with the local university, EKTU. It's focusing on raw materials, and you know that situation in eastern Kazakhstan is of course again a matter of logistics. But because you can produce a lot of raw materials, but you have to find the right logistics route to transport them all over the world. So you see, the locations we will have here in Kazakhstan in the upcoming years, they all will be a logistics hub. We will have location in eastern Kazakhstan, we will have one location at the Caspian Sea, and we will here, of course, we will stay in Almaty. So we are, in some way, we are part of the Silk Road, which crosses Kazakhstan from the Almaty region, or even for Uzbekistan, to the west, to the Caspian Sea. And this is an amazing adventure. This will be for our students, because we don't have just the programs here in Kazakhstan. What is our intention all the time? That we have partners in Germany. And this is another experience for our students, because the students can working together and learning the different logistics perspectives from the European side and from the Kazakh side as well. So that's enough from my side for the beginning. I'm not in the center of that logistics forum. There's the speakers and all the audience. And I wish you all a very interesting day, good discussions, and very interesting speakers we will have today. Thank you very much. And I hand over to the next opening speaker. This will be General Consul Mr. Soos.
Thank you very much, President. Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, it's a great honor for me to be here and welcome you to this important event. An important event because it is about enhancing the movement of goods, of ideas and people across a vast part of our globe. We talk about the connection between China, Germany and Europe, and Kazakhstan being at the heart of it all. So at first I would like to congratulate the German Kazakh University for carrying out this series of, is it not on? Yes, it is. Okay. But my voice is, I think, is loud enough, so you can hear me also without the microphone. So I would like to congratulate the German Kazakh University for carrying out this series of dialogues about logistics. It's already the 11th forum of this kind, and I remember last year when I was here, it was there weren't so many students and speakers, distinguished speakers in this room. So the audience here is already a testament to the importance of the event that we are going to witness today and tomorrow. And it is my great pleasure to say that the German Foreign Office is supporting the German Kazakh University also because of this role of fostering dialogue, of international cooperation, which is at the heart of diplomacy. This is why I stand here in front of you and speak also on behalf of the German government. So with that, I would like to wish you all fruitful deliberations and leave it now to the speakers that have been invited to this event, and maybe also especially welcome our guests from Germany, from Wittenweiler, who are joining this forum. Thank you very much. I wish you a fruitful deliberation.
Спасибо. И следующее приветственное и вступительное слово хотели бы предоставить декану и генеральному директору Института Азиатского банка развития господину Тейцуци Сомнобе. К сожалению, сегодня он не смог приехать, есть запись. Пожалуйста.
Welcome to the East-West Logistics Forum. It is a great pleasure and an honor to provide some welcome and opening remarks on behalf of ADB Institute. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to CAREC Institute and German Kazakh University for their great support for this joint event. I'm speaking in my office in Tokyo. I wish I could join you in Almaty, but my prior commitment prevents me from doing so. I hope there will be other occasions for greeting you in person. I'd like to begin my talk by emphasizing the significance of this event, because we can never overemphasize important roles played by connectivity and transport infrastructure in economic and social development. These days, infrastructure is also expected to contribute to climate and environmental prosperity. This is not limited to the energy sector, but also holds true in the transport sector, even though I will not go into details. Thus, for the economic, social, and environmental prosperity, connectivity and transport infrastructure holds the key to success. Without enough connectivity and enough transport infrastructure, both urban and rural economies can never achieve higher productivity, efficient division of labor, and economic inclusion. This is particularly true for greater intra-regional connectivity in Asia and greater inter-regional connectivity between Asia and Europe, which could create business opportunities for firms and better access to markets and jobs for individuals. But investment in infrastructure does not always increase productivity, allocative efficiency, or distributional equity. Infrastructure must be safe and durable. It must have sufficient capacity, and it must be maintained and renewed regularly. It does not work automatically, but often need other input of resources, especially human resources, to work properly. This is obvious in seaports, airports, or even toll gates along a highway. High-level expertise and continuous capacity building are necessary for infrastructure to contribute to economic, social, and environmental prosperity sufficiently. Another set of warning or caveat is about financing the high costs of construction and maintenance. Infrastructure is inherently accompanied by high upfront cost, large-scale investment, high risk and uncertainty, and so on. Careful analysis of these difficulties must be undertaken, for otherwise infrastructure projects are destined to fail. Yet another set of difficulties is about the benefit of infrastructure investment. Benefits of infrastructure projects vary considerably, depending on many factors, including population density, topology, access to complementary amenities, as well as the level of economic development. Infrastructure investment in Central Asia are challenged by low population density. It is also challenged by large distances, which entails high construction costs. I should add that benefits from infrastructure projects come little by little over many years, which implies that financing infrastructure projects must be long-term and hence more challenging. Since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, fiscal space has been narrow in almost every country, which has made infrastructure investment finance even more challenging. In short, we need to discuss a lot of important issues about connectivity and transport infrastructure in general, and those in Central Asia in particular. In 2021, ADBI published the first book on Trans-Caspian Corridor. Based on evidence, it argues that transport corridors can boost market access and new trade, business, and job opportunities. It concludes that greater policy dialogue and collaboration on Trans-Caspian Corridor are required. Today, we are here to discuss what greater regional connectivity in Central Asia could bring to the region. We will enjoy presentations of the results of new research activities on the development of CAREC transport corridors, its trade and economic potentials, and its challenges and opportunities. The papers presented at this forum are selected from the submissions to our open call for papers. I'd like to thank all those who responded to our call and also congratulate the presenters and co-authors on being successfully shortlisted for future publication. I would request all participants to actively participate in the Q&A after each presentation. Your comments and questions will help the author improve their papers and contribute better to evidence-based policy designs. Last but not least, I thank all the members of the organizing team for putting together this important event. With that, I conclude my welcome and opening remarks and hope you will have fruitful discussions and create new insights. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Welcome to the East-West Logistics Forum. It is a great pleasure and an honor to provide some welcome and opening remarks on behalf of ADB.
Спасибо большое. Уважаемые гости, уважаемые участники, теперь мы начинаем работу нашего логистического форума. У нас теперь работа первой сессии. Значение шелкового пути как связующего звена между Германией, Евросоюзом, Казахстаном и Центральной Азией. Мы бы хотели пригласить участников первой сессии. Модератор Валерия Винклер, научный ассистент, менеджер по мультимодальному дизайну и смешанному обучению. Также президента Казахстанско-Германского университета господина Волрода Ромеля, представителя экономического сената земли Саксония Анте Хернинау и декана факультета международного менеджмента профессора Сержа Велескова. Это вы можете сами делать. Это уже ваша секция, вы можете сами делать.
A small surprise because initially I thought that my dean going to dean of
Sorry, microphone closer.
closer. Okay, sorry. Welcome everyone. So I pass over to my dean, the dean of my faculty in industrial management of the University of Applied Science Mittweida for short welcoming statement, and after that we are starting with the group discussions.
Dr. Kalawatsch, ich spreche weiter in Deutsch. Warum? Weil wir an der Deutsch-Kasachischen Universität sind. Ich möchte mich ganz herzlich bedanken bei dem Präsidenten der Deutsch-Kasachischen Universität, meinem Kollegen Herrn Rommel, für die Gastfreundschaft. Und wir haben heute eine Premiere. Wir sind das erste Mal mit dem Ost-West-Forum außerhalb von Mittweida. Und ja, eigentlich sind wir ja bei Freunden zu Gast, wir sind ja nicht außerhalb. Wir freuen uns, dass das erste Mal hier in Kasachstan, in Almaty, insbesondere an der Deutsch-Kasachischen Universität, das Forum stattfindet. Schwerpunkt wird natürlich sein Logistik, aber ich sehe hier unsere Studierenden eigentlich an Sie alle, Sie lachen schon hinten, an Sie richtet sich das Forum, genau, weil Sie natürlich die kommende Generation sind, die die Zusammenarbeit zwischen Europa, Asien und Sie mittendrin in Zentralasien eigentlich die wichtigsten Personen sind. Und ich bin ganz gespannt auf die Diskussion, die wir heute Vormittag haben. Und ich fordere Sie auch auf, dass Sie nicht nur hier sitzen, zuhören, sondern dass Sie dann, wenn die Diskussionsrunde hier ist, auch entsprechend Fragen an die Vertreter aus Deutschland und Kasachstan stellen. Ich wünsche dem Ost-West-Forum einen guten Verlauf und auf spannende Diskussion. Und für die Studierenden habe ich noch eine Überraschung. Wir sehen uns nächstes Jahr zur Vorlesung Internationales Management. Also, herzlichen Dank nochmal, Herr Rommel, für die Gastfreundschaft und ich übergebe an unseren Professor Vedesto, der Lehrstuhl für Internationales Management betreibt hat. Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Before starting with podium discussion, basically initially it's supposed to be one more member of the podium discussion, Professor Wild. He is an entrepreneur from Saxony. He was alone for 10 years or 15 years, the director or CEO of the IBM in Dresden. Since 3 years, he stepped back from IBM, and he is. And since 3 years, he's an entrepreneur. He has owned a couple of the companies in Saxony, and I pass over to the Andreas, to you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me and can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is Andy Wyatt from Chemnitz in Germany speaking. Good morning, everybody. I hope we have a good line from Chemnitz to Almaty and you can see and hear me properly. Unfortunately, I cannot participate in this East-Western Forum due to personal reason at the moment directly, but it's an honor and a pleasure for me to have a speech and a presentation so early in the morning. It's 5 o'clock in Germany and I have a cup of coffee here for waking up. So, and is anybody there who can assist me and start my presentation? Or is there Alima Alipova? Can you start my presentation, please? Hello?
Just a moment.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I hope you can see the first slide. So I understood the title of this East-Western Forum is the New Silk Road. And what I want to do in my presentation is to build a bridge from our new global ecosystem, which is a digitalized ecosystem, is to companies and organizations that are involved in this amazing project of the New Silk Road. And what does it mean for the companies that are affected or the organizations and countries that are affected? So, but can you flip to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. So, yes, Professor Valescu gave a short intro about my person. So, that's right, I'm a professor for digital transformation management at the University of Applied Science in Mittweida since more than 10 years. And I was a member of the IBM Corporation for more than 29 years. From this time, I have many experience. I could acquire many skills regarding large IT projects and what does it mean to setting up a digital transformation management for companies. So, 2019, I left the IBM Corporation. I was founding 3 companies with a companion in Chemnitz. Now we have 150 employees at the moment, and we have 3 companies in 3 different branches. A production company, there we are producing huge electrical cabinets for the Siemens Corporation. Then we have an IT and informatics company for software development and an HR company for hiring, recruiting and negotiate skilled employees for other companies. So this is a short intro regarding my person. So, okay, can you flip to the next chart, please? Okay, so the title for this conference, I understood, is the New Silk Road, but I think we should take a look back in the history. The classic Silk Road existing already 1,000 years ago, and it was well known in Western Europe by a famous person. His name was Marco Polo. I think he's well known for most of you in the auditorium. But what he did, he described the trading lines from the Far East, from China to Western Europe. What's about the products, the countries that are involved, and he described also the secrets and the oriental touch behind the classic Silk Road. His name was Marco Polo. He was an Italian trading man, and he made the Silk Road famous 800 years ago in Europe. But the question is, would such a kind of Silk Road walk successfully today? Okay, flip to the next chart, please. Yes, I think it's a normal thing we can just state. First of all, the New Silk Road is not the same as Marco Polo's time. And the question is, why is it so, and what makes the difference? To anticipate the answer, we live in a digitalized global ecosystems. Despite we have trading lines, we have roads, we have transportation support. It's the same like 1,000 years ago. But the most significant difference is that we have a digitalized global ecosystem. Okay, so flip on please to the next chart. Okay, as I said, the most significant difference is that we live in a new world. It's a digitalized global ecosystem. We all know these buzzwords, but most of the buzzwords they describe this digitalized ecosystem mean the same. We talk about IoT, Internet of Things, or the era of digitalization, or sometimes we heard anything about the data of the edge. That means that we are using mobile devices to get information and make our decisions. And we have big data and cloud solutions. But all these things and all these buzzwords describe this digitalized global ecosystem. Okay, flip to the next chart, please. Behind this digitalization and the things, there are 5 global megatrends. But these megatrends have a strong global impact to the involved companies, countries, and organizations. And also any effects to our persons, to ourselves. The first of all is we are using mobile technologies and social media. Social media is all around. We have interchange, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and many other social networks where we can share information. They are helpful, day by day for everybody of us and also for companies. The next mega trend is flip back please. So it's increasing of customers and the market expectations. That means the market and the customers become more and more individual. The next one is we have the extended enterprise. We have broadened digital supply chain between the companies, the suppliers, and the customers. We have big data, artificial intelligence, and analytics solutions to have a better outcome of the huge data stack we can use. And we have hybrid cloud and IT infrastructure solutions. And so please flip to the next chart. Okay, on the next chart we have a question. The question is, what is the worldwide key business driver #1 behind digitalization? And I can anticipate when we flip to the next chart, the answer is very simple. Okay, flip on, and yes, as I said, the answer is very simple. The secret behind digitalization is data. We have a massive and a huge increasing of data every year. And you see the red circle, and in the year 2023, approximately we have 126 zettabyte worldwide on digital data, on digital content. And it's important to know that approximately 75 to 80% of the complete data stack we have is unstructured data. And we have structured data and unstructured data worldwide in the databases and the cloud systems. But the difference is within unstructured data, we have more helpful information. The question is, how can companies use this helpful information and how are they able to analyze the unstructured data? And as an example, unstructured data are all information in social networks. This can be video clips, pictures, spoken words, handwritten text, and all the other things we can digitalize with our IT systems. These are unstructured data. And as I said, the most significant difference is that unstructured data have more helpful information inside. Okay, so can you flip on, please? There are any examples of the affected industries. They're using massive data input to make their business. As an example, we have retail industry, oil and gas, banking and insurance, healthcare. There are many other industries also, production, automotive industry at this time. They are all using massive data input to make their decisions or handling risks in their business. Okay, can you flip on, please? Now we have in the next two charts, we have any examples of any industries that are using digitalized content and digitalized support in especially solutions. One of them is cognitive maintenance in mining industry or oil and gas industry. It's very important for them. They make cognitive maintenance for their tools, transporting systems, and all the other technical systems they are using. But it's very important to have a high performance of the data systems that are provided for the industry. There are any figures in any surveys we can read worldwide in the internet. If one system is down, possibly they are losing 5 million per day when a data mining or a data grab is down. And this is a danger. So that's the reason why we need high performance systems for using this data in our business. Okay, so can you flip on, please? Yes, another good example is where massive data is producing or is responsible for the data growth. These are brain-inspired systems for synthesizing, analyzing sensor data we are using in any systems. And exactly what the numbers we can read is that approximately 70% of unstructured data, or data growth of unstructured data, comes out of sensor data and machine learning systems at this time. The automotive industry or science, they are using machine learning systems and sensor data, technical systems. So, but they are producing a massive outcome of unstructured data. This is only another example. Okay, so can you flip on, please? Let's have a look, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about digitalization, how supply chains and value chains of the companies are affected. And what does it mean for the transformation of business models of the companies? And it's very interesting what the business leaders say. There are many, many surveys at this time. They are available in science, in public science, but also in the internet, regarding how do they invest in such technologies for supporting their business processes. So, can you flip on, please? First of all, what the business leader feel and what they say, they see, first of all, a fragmentation and disruption of traditional value chains. So it's a turnaround. Many companies need digital support for their business processes to anticipate customer and market expectations more individually. This is a disruption of the classic value chains in the companies. The next one is convergence of traditional industries, and the third one, emergence of new ecosystems around the companies. That means they have to more and more to involve the suppliers and customers in a virtual supply chain in their ecosystem, to sharing information of a digital way. This is what we mean when we talk about Internet of Things. It means an interchange of digital informations between our company and the suppliers on the left side and the customers on the right side. Okay, so flip to the next chart, please. On the next chart, we can see what the CXOs, that means the CEOs, the CFOs, and the CIOs. What are the main investments in new technologies? And in surveys, they say 60% or 63% of the CEOs say we have to invest in cloud computing and cloud services. IT solutions becomes more and more a managed service from outside. The next one is investing in mobile solutions and in Internet of Things. These are the three topics what the CXOs say where we have to invest in new technologies. Okay, so flip on, please. When we talk about business transformation, here we can see in this picture four quartiles, it's a quadrant, 4 quadrants, how companies are able to combine finance efficiency and business insight. This is a picture, it shows 4 quadrants for companies that are in the same industry, in the same branch. And as we all know, any companies in any branch are lagging behind, but any companies in a branch are the torchbearers. They are going ahead, and we call them value integrators. But companies that are able to combine in a high efficiency their finance forecast, the clearness of the finance outlook in their processes and to involve customer insight. That means to anticipate the expectations of their customers. To combine these companies, these are performance accelerators, and these are only 7% all the companies in one branch. We have any good examples from worldwide companies that are starting a small business. One of them is, an example is Airbnb or Uber. They are starting 10, 15 years ago as a small business, but the difference was they are starting with a pure digital business model. And over the years, they become the performance accelerators and growing up to large companies that are leading worldwide their business against their competitors. So on the right side, we see what's important for these companies is anticipating market expectations, increasing the business insight, increasing of finance efficiency, and the other things I mentioned here. And so this is important for companies to transform the business and to support processes alongside the value add chain with digital solutions. Okay, so can you flip on? Okay, let's have deeper insight onto the value add chain and the supply chain for the companies. We can see the value add chain. That means we know how value add is produced. We have to move costs from our cost centers in our company to the cost carrier. And at the end of the value add, we have to produce revenue and profitability. But when we can save time and costs in our value add chain, companies can achieve a higher revenue and a higher profitability, right? And that means companies have to transform their business processes by supporting with digitalized solutions or digitalized support. And as I mentioned, it's important to anticipate customer expectations. And above we can see a symbolic supply chain. We see the suppliers and the customers. And the task for the companies is to integrate them in their digital information interchange and handle information. This is what we mean when we talk about Internet of Things. It means to make the supply chain more valuable and give intellectual property and informations or sharing with our suppliers and our customers. This is the new ecosystem of any company. Okay, so can you flip to the next chart, please? Last but not least, I want to summarize the input of this presentation. Digitalization has a direct impact to the involved companies and organizations that are involved into the new Silk Road. Companies that are using digital support in their processes, they reach more speed and success by adopting a digital approach in their processes, reducing time and costs for higher performance. That means they achieve higher revenue and profitability. They are able to have better handling of trading lines, product streams and investments. And they are able to anticipate very early the individual requirements of the market and of their customers. And they involve these requirements, individual requirements, because products become more and more individual in their research and development inside of their company. And so they have a better outcome of individual products. And we have a higher integration of suppliers and customers in the digital supply chain alongside the Silk Road for companies that understood what it means to support their processes with digitalized solutions. Okay, this was my speech early in the morning. I hope I could give you any interesting topic. My offering for you is, if you have any questions regarding digital transformation or digital transformation management, companies and organizations, to send me your questions or contact me. Professor Verescu and Professor Schmalfuß can provide my email address, and we can have the opportunity to discuss this in an online meeting or possibly next year in Almaty. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for the audience, and I wish this conference in Almaty much success, good discussions, and I say bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Greetings from Chemnitz to Almaty.
Thank you very much, Andreas. See you next time see you soon in Chemnitz, in Mittweida, and I hope that next time it's going to be successful. All the best.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Much success.
So we are going to continue with podium discussion. So may I ask the members of podium discussion come over? Antje Hermenau, Professor Rommel.
Lass mal die Moderation. Bitte für die Moderation. Ja? Okay.
Welcome.
Moderation.
You have one chance. Also, you have to stay. Well, I will. Okay. Before we start, a couple of words, still as an introduction. It's basically our sixth forum, and it's good reason why it's sixth. And it's also good reason why we are right now the first time outside of the Mittweida here in Almaty. Thank you very much again for the such nice opportunity for us. And this time, while 6 years ago, we just started industrial management master degree, double degree. Those times with Russian State University. And as we start this program as a double degree, we thought that it's a little bit about logistics, but not logistics in the way of things, but logistics in the way of the students and the way of the developing the business. Because conducting or making the double degrees, it makes no sense just to make the students have the both degrees, but we are University of Applied Science, and we are always thinking about implementing it into business. And the idea was, initially it was a Saxony Production Forum to bring the companies together, that our students can make the internships and also develop the business. By the way, industrial management with the focus on innovation and business expansion. And we, after 6 years, we are started this year, the industrial management program double degree with German Kazakh University. And that's why we thought, okay, it was 6th time in a row very successful. We brought a couple of companies together. So during these 6 forums, and right now, we think that it's the best opportunity to bring again the companies from Kazakhstan, also Middle Asia, together with European companies. That's why we expand our focus to East-West. And that's also the reason why we brought Antje Hermenau. She is the director of the Association of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises in Saxony. And Saxony has a huge number of mid and small enterprises. All of them, or a lot of them, right now, eager to expand their business. The same, I think, it's valid from the Kazakhstan. A lot of mid and small-sized enterprises are making the next step, thinking about expansion. and that's basically the one of the idea, and our focus will be not just on podium discussion. I think the next step will be tomorrow, where we also during this forum we're going to visit a couple of companies, and the main thing of such events, it's not just some speakers, not just podium discussions, but what happens in the breaks. So don't hesitate to speak to the speakers, especially for the people from the business, because it's also for you, as for students, but also for the other participants, nice opportunity to make networks. Last but not least, we prepare a couple of questions, but podium discussions leaves from the questions from you. So don't hesitate just to raise your hand or to write or whatever, to provide the questions to our moderator, Valeria, and we are eager to discuss all kinds of topics, also outside of the just East-West forum.
So, good morning everyone. Nice to see you today. My name is Valeria Winkler. I am also from the Applied Sciences Nevada, the university. And today we sit here so that we are going to discuss a very important subject, which is the Silk Road as a link between Germany, the EU, Kazakhstan and Central Asia. I have prepared some questions, but still, of course, you are allowed anytime also to ask questions. You can raise your hand, I can pass the microphone, and so you can ask also. Please don't hesitate on that. And I would like to welcome our guest speakers. Professor Velasco has already introduced our speakers, but I will briefly introduce them another time too. First of all, on the end of the road is sitting Mrs. Nadira Sajitova, which is the HR manager of the global software engineering firm Data Art in Almaty. Next to her is sitting, yes, please, if you want, Next to her, of course, you know him, is sitting Professor Dr. Volrad Rommel, the president, of course, of your DKU University at Kazakhstan. Please welcome. And next to him is sitting Professor Serge Velasco, which is the Dean of the Studies International Management at the University of Applied Sciences in Mittweida. And we also have a very important guest from Germany, which is Ms. Antje Hermenau. She is the director of the Economic Senate of the Federal Association of Medium-Sized Business in Saxony in Germany. Please welcome her. All right, so now we will start with our questions, and the first one will be regarding the Silk Road. What do you think, should Europe be afraid of this big project called Silk Road? Who would like to start to discuss about this question?
Yeah, super. Okay. I'll take the start. I think because I have been to politics before I started to be with the enterprises. I have been to the National Parliament and know some facts about politics as well. To my point of view, the European Union is not really prepared to face a challenge like the Silk Road. They started some global gateway initiative a couple of years ago, but this is not exactly comparable to the Silk Road. Silk Road is much more advanced. The targets are much more specified. It's not by random, but there are goals they will want to reach. To my point of view, it is important for a country like Kazakhstan, being in the middle of the huge powers between, in a sandwich, so to speak, to know what they want, what you want to take out of it. And my opinion is, this is a special situation because The German government acts in a way that enterprises from Germany are looking for new markets, but new partners and new places to put production on. And we are talking about logistics all the day, but the inevitable point I want to make is, if you don't have production, if you don't add value to your product or produce pre-products, for instance, for production, it's only a state things are rushing through from west to east and east to west. So combine it, get firms here to buy Kazakh firms or go together with Kazakh firms and start producing as well, it's much better. The eastern part of Germany had been added to the western part of Germany more than 30 years ago. And a lot of firms start on their own, but of course there were a lot of firms, just production sites from the western part, and they are leaving now because the situation is more serious, and we stick to what we have built up ourselves. So you need something on your own, not only raw materials, not only logistics, but production as well. And to my point of view, if this is combined, this is a very promising future for a country like Kazakhstan, to my point of view. It doesn't matter whether it's global gateway from the Europeans or it's Silk Road from the Chinese. You have to do something on your own. Frankly.
Any other comments on that questions?
Yeah, I can continue. No
Yes,
problem.
you can continue, please.
Yeah.
I can use
Oh, yeah,
the
okay.
microphone.
Okay.
It must work. So I'm using that. Of course, it's, yes, as you have said, of course, Kazakhstan is somewhere in the middle of that development.
Yeah.
This is a challenge, a very huge challenge. But Kazakhstan was able to getting independent 30 years ago. This was the first success in that direction. But still, they are in the middle of China interests, of Russian interests. There are some Islamic powers in the south. That's a danger. And Europe is in some aspects is a little bit too far away. So
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
the Kazakh government is always looking for European connections to have a balance of powers within the current setting. I totally agree that, of course, if you're just understanding the Silk Road as a corridor where goods are passing, this is not very beneficial for you. From the beginning of the coast, you get some tolls, you have some smart investments in the side of the road, but that's not really a perspective where the country is getting welfare out of that development. So this is really the challenge, to go in the direction that you're just not only be a producer of raw materials, gas and oil, you have to go in the industrial value chain, and that's a challenge for Kazakhstan in the upcoming years. And that's the reason why I decided to go to Aktau with my university, because meaning to develop this industrial development, so you have to work on very different corners. Of course, starting point is connectivity in the sense that you need transportation solutions, etc. You have to build up production lines itself. That's another challenge. And of course, you need brain power for that. If you have not the skills of the people working in that area and working in Kazakhstan, you will not have a success. So at the end, the success story will be a combination of getting things together, the production itself, logistics solutions, and of course you need the people to be successful in that direction. And of course, Kazakhstan can very much about those developments, about the German approach, I would say the classical traditional approach, because the strength of the German economy is based on medium-sized company. That's really the basic for industrial development, because they're independent from financial institutions. Normally they're family-driven businesses, so they have a long-term perspectives for growth. And this could be, of course, will be a challenge to develop within that Kazakh structure we have, coming from very other tradition of large companies. So to build up really the middle class of medium-sized companies. Otherwise, you will not get successful in bringing up that idea of, I would say, industrializing Kazakhstan in some ways.
So, if I understood you right, we should indeed be a little afraid of the Silk Road, and it's not possible that all the countries worldwide have a benefit from the Silk Road? Or is it possible, or in which way is it possible to have a win-win situation for all the countries which are involved in this project?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for having such a chance. And it was very nice to meet with you, all of you. This is really interesting and probably important question for nowadays. And actually, as for me, I'm out of politics and so on. I could just say and recommend to our students, this is our new generation, these people will actually take care of everything in the future. So just pay your attention for the skills, and absolutely agree, because this is really important to be very ready. And nowadays you have to pay a lot of attention for your English language, for your communication skills. This is really important, to your network. And actually, as it was mentioned before, that present time is a digital time, let's say. You have to pay your attention on the maybe very, let's say, famous maybe systems in logistics, and not only. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Probably you have also heard from the European project called the Global Gateway. I think this is something we could also discuss and try to understand what are the difference between the Silk Road and the Global Gateway. So I passed the question to you and would like to know to what extent are these two initiatives in competition, or what is the difference between these two initiatives?
Yeah. Well, thank you. As I mentioned before, the Global Gateway has been developed a couple of years ago, whereas Silk Road had been thought over for the last 20 years. So this is much riper. The project Silk Road is much riper than Global Gateway for the European Union. The European Union is still discussing what to make out their sandwich position between the USA and China. And they didn't make up their mind yet. So you can see that in the responses on the war between Ukraine and Russia, for instance, you can see that that they are concentrating on African countries at the moment, and they get a kind of backlash. One example, the French used to buy their uranium in Western Africa to very low prices. They now have put up the prices very highly, and the French will have to think about their energy production from the beginning, from the scratch on again. So things are changing very much for the Europeans. We will have been forced to leave old barren ways, and they kept thinking all the time they are good enough to withstand everything, but that's not true. They are too weak to just exist the way they had. And this will be a learning process, and I'm not sure whether or not the eastern part of Europe will be quicker in learning than the western part, because the western part is a bit richer, and they think of themselves, they are the better because they won the system, war actually. And the point now is who is quick and who is adapting quickly. And to my point of view, there will be an interesting discussion within Europe whether Silky Road is good or not good for Europe. The Italian government wants to step out of Silk Road again by the end of the year, but keep good contact to our Chinese partners. Our Minister of Economy in Germany said globalization is over. I think he is mistaken. He just didn't get the message. Globalization is changing, and there are much more participants, and they know what they want to do for their own countries. It's really changing, and this will be an adaptation process. The Chinese are within the group of the changers, and the Europeans are within the group of those who will be changed, and they are still a bit discussing the problem because they take step by step. They are not finished yet. So my point of view is, don't be afraid as a Kazakh people, just do what you can do for your own country. I would suggest to make partners in Germany as much as possible, because I think the German economy is going to do their own globalization next step, and they will combine IT and IoT with production. And I mean, the Germans really missed the bus regarding B2B contacts, B2C contacts, so we don't supply customers. But what we can do is, the B2B contacts, we can digitize the machineries and the industry. And this is actually a good thing to do, and you would be in front of the new development if you take part in that. And if there are young people speaking German well, they will be most welcome partners for German firms, of course.
Just a brief question on that subject, Ms. Hermenau. So you don't think that Europe will give the global gateway up? Yes.
No, it won't give it up, but they collected all the measures and programs they had regarding foreign countries in Africa and in Asia, and just gave it a new name, and this was Global Gateway. This is no really new initiative. It is just a collection of programs they had started before. So if you know that, don't pay too much attention to that. This is just for the huge industries in Europe to take part in developments like new energy supply techniques and things like that. You can take advantage of it, for instance, in energy production. This is a sector Kazakhstan could step in, no problem. And this will be interesting, I guess. Hydrogen, for instance, hydrogen production, hydrogen supply. But on the other side, the definition of what a country needs has to be taken by the country itself, to my point of view. And so you define your industries, you define your products of the future, and then you look for partners to get it done, to my point of view.
Thank you. Yes, please, Mr.
I would like to add some remarks about the difference between Silk Road and Gateway. So if you look at the wording, you see the difference, because Gateway is just one route to come to Gateway.
That's it, yeah.
In Silk Road, this is a very different approach, where you see coming from the past, more than several hundred years, that routes are changing, and it's based on diversification, and in between we have a lot of prosperity from different towns. Some are growing up for 20 years, some are decreasing for another 100 years, so the world is changing. And this perspective, means really digitalization, because this is based on diversification, as we learned from the speaker before, that companies will have a lot of changes. They will customize the business approach, and this will be reflected in logistic fields as well.
True, yeah.
Thank you very much. And don't forget, you can ask questions anytime. Coming back to the Silk Road, do you remember 2020 when we have this pandemic? The question now is regarding the Silk Road, in which way or what impact did the corona pandemic have on the Silk Road? Yes, Mr.
Lots of benefits, because we learned digitalization. We learned working at home and even working together, online and offline. I think this was a learning curve for everybody for us.
I think not just this. Also, it's shows the world that it's it's a lot about logistics, because all of us, more or less, especially in B2B in German companies, experience a huge challenge in logistics programs, because suddenly logistics does not work. So if you shut down one of the small chain in a huge logistics chain, suddenly the entire logistics chain just collapsed. So we saw it in the production of the cars, we saw it in the production of machinery, we saw it in this production of chips. And the point is also, it was no experience before as large scale, that if suddenly the logistic chain collapsed, to build it again take time, take a lot of money, and you have to think about risks. And your initial question was about the Silk Road and risks. I would turn it around. It's always changes, it's always risks and opportunities. And what happens right now, I think, also with Silk Road, beforehand, the Silk Road was, the idea of the Silk Road was, okay, we have the production somewhere in China, and we are going to expand our markets. So we push all the products through this Silk Road away, and it's coming something back, and it was basically there's a lot of idea about the economy of scale and the concentration of production. And right now, if you're speaking about the corona, I think the main point is not just digitalization, but the understanding that you need to think once again about the value chain, about the entire chains, where you are going to produce, how you manage your risk, production risks. That means that you cannot have just one production site somewhere around the globe. You need to have at least two, and most probably you need to have even some kind of production and backup of the production in all three continents. And it's huge opportunity. It's the huge challenges for the business, for the big size, but it's a huge opportunity for mid-size companies on the one side, but also on the other side, it's huge opportunities for the countries like Kazakhstan, because they can just win about this, because it's basically the excellent logistics point where you can deliver the products or the parts of the products to the south, to the north, to the west, to the east. And it's a huge challenge for the Germany, indefinitely, because Germans basically built up the majority of the industries, and I was used to work 15 years for the big size companies. It's all the time was the concentration of the allocation to the production of where it's the best combination of cost benefits and concentration of production. Right now, they have to rethink in the way they have to think how to, and it's exactly what happens right now, to de-distribute their production footprint. And that's also a huge opportunity for the young people, because the point is that I would say that managers who all their life were concentrating just on the economy of scales and on the concentration of the production, and they built up very special, very long value chains with all the concentrations. They are not thinking in the networks, and the new generation, it sounds funny, but the new generation who develops themselves, who are grew up with the old Facebook and Twitter and all this, they are thinking by nature in the networks. And they are going to drive right now and change a lot of industries. And we are trying to basically even to accelerate this wave. And also this kind of forums, this logistic, I think it's one step in this direction.
Microphone?
Okay, I'm back. Thank you very much.
What was the question?
We have two questions from the audience. The first one I saw in this direction, so I will start with you, and then we'll go to your next question, please.
Good morning. I have a question. In your opinion, how did COVID-19 affect the development of the Silk Road? COVID-2019, sorry.
Okay.
Well, we already started with that question, the question I asked, but maybe you can also say something about it.
Well, the infection or pandemic situation in 2020, 2021 actually showed that a lot of firms started reshoring their supply chains. So they shorten ways, or they try to have more partners where they can import from, and the partners should be able to transfer goods via ship or via railway or lorry. So they want to have different possibilities to get everything they need, pre-products, everything else, by different ways of logistics is important. And the second thing is a lot of firms tend to go to the markets they have. So automobile industry is the biggest example, chemical industry is the second one. They just leave Germany and go to those countries where they have their customers and produce in situ, produce there where the customers are. The Chinese market had been very attractive to automotive. Then the chemical industry uses to go to the United States at the moment because they are offering very low energy prices. So the German industries are moving to other places in the world. And that's what actually I was aiming at the beginning. This is the special situation we have at the moment. It's possible to get German industry into your country if you want to. It depends on the conditions.
Thank you very much, and we go to the next question, please.
Thank you. Dina Žgaliva, ADPI. I have a question. So, like the speaker rightly said, European Union goes through many changes. And the one I'm interested, carbon border adjustment mechanism. You know, right? Carbon border adjustment mechanism.
Carbon border?
Carbon border,
no.
Carbon.
My mistake, I'm sorry. Carbon, yeah.
Border adjustment mechanism, which means country who export anything dirty will have to pay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So how do you think this policy will change the structure of exports, what's exported, what imported, to Germany, and where from goods coming from? For example, maybe you expect more green steel, green cement, green hydrogen, green ammonia. Like, do you think it will change, and who is exporting as well?
Oh, what a question. So I don't have my crystal ball with me. I can't tell the future. But to my estimation, I think the green wave is on the peak and will go down a bit, because industries in Europe are not able to follow the path. This is not possible. The ambition is too high. And for instance, the Swedish government just a week ago said, we are not taking part anymore, we go back to nuclear power, this is cleaner than coal, but we have to have our energy to, it has to be available every time, and it has to be not expensive. So this is the one thing. The second thing is the mechanism you are mentioning about polluting industries or products and other things. This is actually a mechanism to choose your partner. To my point of view, this had been implemented to find out whom you want to cooperate with as a European country or not. But as I said, as the example of Sweden, the European countries step out of the treaties one after the other. It will take 1, 2, or 3 more years, and then the Germans are at home alone, actually, in that point. The standards are too high. It's not possible to meet it if you have international partners. And so I think there might be some more discussion. Important is what the worldwide institutions are telling, what their standards are, and I guess the ambitious German and then European standards will go down a bit just to survive their own ambition.
Any more questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I have a question. Please, can you tell us how will be the Silk Road logistics system organized, and how will be what is going to happen with logistics relationship with countries that are not involved in this process? Because as I understood, it needs enormous attention to pay on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, you should. You know your neighbors.
Thank you for your question. Actually, for me, it's not easy to answer. But I guess we need to know what is, on which stage, let's say, is the new Silk Road project is for now, because I guess nobody knows about it. And as for global gate, let's say, to compare with New Silk Road, I could say that this is really a new initiative, but I guess this initiative a bit late.
Yeah.
For now. I don't know. What could I actually say for now? As for other countries which are not involved in this process, this is good opportunities for them to be involved, probably. Because who knows, for example, we've just discussed this question regarding Corona. So who knows what we could expect for this winter, for example. I don't know, did I actually answer the question or not? What do you think? Okay, probably if you have other questions, please, you're welcome.
Если есть вопросы на русском, тоже можете задать, мы переведем. If you have any Russian, questions in Russian, please feel free, we will translate all your thoughts.
Ребята, не стесняйтесь, пожалуйста, обращайтесь, задавайте вопросы на русском языке, Если, может быть, вам что-то непонятно, может быть, задавайте наводящие вопросы, пожалуйста, не стесняйтесь, мы здесь специально для вас, чтобы обсудить интересующие вас вопросы.
Hello. Как спецоперация в России может повлиять на вот этот шоковый путь, который сейчас разрабатывается?
How the special project that is being developed in Russia will influence this sector?
In Russia?
On the Greek zwischen Ukraine and Russia.
Okay. The war. Yeah. Okay. Well, to my point of view, I have been raised in the eastern part of Germany, so я говорю немножко, только немножко. Убила все, 30 лет. To my point of view, Europe has made a huge mistake to just take part in the war and say everybody's supporting Ukraine and that's it. Because now the Russian government had a good reason to turn to Asia only and to bring it back to Europe. To my point of view, from a German economic point of view, this is not good because I always thought the Eurasian Union you have, together with Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, to be a bridge between Asia and Europe was a wise thing to develop. I'm a bit disappointed this is now in the shadow a bit. And I think it will be a backlash for a couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 decades, and then we will find out that this was not a good way to work with the whole problem, or deal with the whole problem, and we'll come back to see what Eurasia is able to do. But as you certainly know, the Americans are strong partners in the European Union, and the Europeans are discussing what this partnership is about. They are re-evaluating, actually, the partnership with the US, and that will take its time. And there may be different answers by different European countries, to my point of view. So it's a pity. The world is renewing itself, I think, with good perspectives, and the Europeans are dealing with themselves, but I can't help it. The only thing I can do is support enterprises and entrepreneurs to work together and just keep up. And that's it.
Would you like to add something about that question? Yes?
Can use that microphone. Yes, I think there's really high learning curve, I would say, starting from Corona. First of all, you have learned a lesson that you can't trust on just one route, that you need diversification. Same with the Ukraine war. So you learned again that you have to find out different ways for bringing goods over the different routes and to optimize the different routes. And this, I think, at the end, it will have a very positive effect, because it's a combination of digitalization, which has the same approach, and I would say the real world, which shows that you must go ahead on the digitalization process to find out new ways to get your logistic problem solved. So, of course, the upcoming, I would say, decades, this will be a huge challenge for all of us, because we have still the Ukraine war. The problem is not solved.
No.
Not even if they end the war, people must live together, independent of what happens. Same, we have the geopolitical changes between the major powers, China, United States, etc. This is not solved. What's going on and with the strongest position in the upcoming years. You have, of course, climate change again. Somebody can't forget that. You see that of course the conditions of living are changing. So we are coming in a situation where we have a lot of different challenges to tackle, particularly the younger generation. And this means, from my point of view, that knowledge is very important in that situation. And what you're learning at the end, that's the basing in your academic education, because that's the basing of your knowledge which you will need in the upcoming decades from very different perspectives. And my generation, even if I'm older, we learned that environment is changing very fast, and that you have some basic tools which you have learned when you're very young. But there's always a long life learning curve you have to tackle, particularly in the upcoming decades. So we are in this process, and we are at the beginning of this process. That is my understanding.
Thank you very much. Talking about knowledge, Professor Rommel, do you think that there is a danger of uncontrolled know-how transfer within the framework of German group activities?
You have always that risk. When I give one example, when you start a cooperation with Chinese companies, you are always under this risk. What is going up with your knowledge? So you can't trust on patents, you can't trust on the new framework. You must trust on your know-how, on your own know-how, and how to save that, and be always one step before. That's the solution: to be faster, to be better, so that if somebody tries to steal your knowledge, that you are that you can go in the very next steps of the decision making. That's the only answer we have. You need more knowledge to tackle the challenges, because it's not new. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Some other questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Hello, everybody. Please tell me, how can Russian sanction made influence in ES economy this year?
In unserer Well, actually, this is interesting question, really, because European Union and the United States were convinced that putting sanctions on Russia would bring Russia down. It did not turn out that way. So, to my point of view, from an economic point of view, the sanctions had big hits in our European economics as well, and this actually. I think most of the politicians didn't know that 2 years later or 3 years later, after sanctions had been put on Russia, the problems, the economic problems in the European Union would be bigger than they had expected. So this is a learning curve as well. They are learning about this as well. To my point of view, sanctions are not appropriate anymore in a worldwide economy because nearly all countries do have different borders with different partners, and you cannot cut them off the world anymore. And if you have a look at Syria, for instance, had been cut off from the SWIFT system, from the money banking system, everything else. The neighboring countries are working with Syria somehow, and Syria is surviving, so this is a bad situation. So I think the world splits up in various groups. It's not one or two dictating everybody what's going on. And if that's the case, then the classical sanctions are an instrument of the 20th century, and it's over.
Thank you. Some other questions from the audience? All right, then I have prepared another question which has to do with the subject of building. We have talked about a lot about economics now, but now I would like to discuss a little bit about the impact on the field of education, which means what is the impact of the Silk Road on the field of education, and try to discuss a little bit about the risks, but also about the opportunities that gets along in the field of education with the Silk Road.
You know, I think both of us have to speak because we have the different. No, I assume we have the same view, but right now we have the different institutions, and that means that we are interested to see it from the both sides. From the okay, you have the both institution in mind somehow, me not yet. I think the point is there are two. At least two sides or even more dimensions of this question. The first of all is the competition between the educational bodies. You know, I have before starting the forum, I have the nice discussion with my students from Almaty, and so I always make that advertisement to come over to Mittweida. And one of the students said, well, I'm not looking to come to Mittweida or to EU, but I'm looking to come over to China. Good reason for this. And I think one of the impact of the Silk Road exactly this. So it's, if you look on my generation, and I was born in UdSSR, in Belarusia, and used to study in Minsk and Moscow and finish my study in Germany. It's those days it was very clear that the expectation of the participation of the globalization, the perspective, you're supposed to get the education somewhere in Germany, Western Germany, or even in the US. So something like we know, everyone knows Harvard, MIT, and so far and so on. Silk Road changed a lot. Right now, if I'm, you know, a friend of mine, he's living in New York. He has own agency, also here in the sector of innovation and education, and he make for the U.S. government investigation something like five years ago. And investigation was about the elite universities and about the salaries of the profs and about what is the from the profs, from the high level
researchers and the profs where is the place to be and where is the most perspective. The funny point, and this huge surprise, and that's why this basically research work was never published, but was just for US government. The funny point is that the average salary of the on the level of the deans and on the level of the top researcher between the top university in US, so we are speaking about the MIT, Harvard, California University and so on, and between the same position in China. In China it was double salary, but the most important point, double of the research budget. And it's little bit about research. That's the reason why, for instance, you are going to find less and less top-level profs in US and also in Germany, and slightly but steady the brain on this level, brain drain to China and to South Asia. But it's one dimension. And basically the initiative of the Germany on the elite university, it was one of the answers to this challenge, the same story. The other dimension about the students itself, where is the best perspective? You know, again, if I'm looking on my own, I used to study on the both systems, and right now I'm also last 10 years as I became the profs, make my lecture basically everywhere in the world, so I to make them here on regular basis and enjoy it, but I also used to teach in the US and in Germany. We have there not just a competition on the profs level, but on the competition on the approach level. So we have the completely different approaches, and I think the mix is something very special. That's why I'm always saying, hey, if you would like to have the good education, the double degree is something very special, because you have not just experience of intercultural issues, but also the system of education, because the applied science of in Mittweida or the education in Germany, especially applied science, is completely different. It's very, very much about the application of knowledge, little less of the academic knowledge in comparison also even to the kind of that if I'm comparing the students which are just studying in Germany to the DKU students, I would say academically he's at least the same level. Basically, if I'm honest, unfortunately, it's better. But if we are speaking about the application of knowledge, indefinitely we are advanced, and the mix is making something up. And the set point is the set dimension is where the students are going to be after as alumni after they finishing the study, and this you know, the set dimension, which is very, very interesting, because you know, I think there are two aspects. The point is that where you spend your time between 20 and 25, mostly you stay in the country because of the social life. It's the age where you get in love, and it's became, you know, it's became not just about the money and perspective, but also the way you are feel yourself comfortable. I never expect to stay in Germany, but it's basically I can speak about my own experience on the one side. On the other side, it's I think that the demography and also the battle of the talents, it's full in place, and that's something which the Silk Road going to have a huge impact, and having huge impact already right now. And it's not just brain drain in one direction as before. Everyone spoke about it, from developed and less developed countries to the Eastern world. Right now, it's more diffused, and indefinitely we speak about the knowledge. I think the knowledge is more about not patterns, but the knowledge is about the heads, and where the heads drain, knowledge go there. and it's something where you cannot just keep inside the company, you have to keep the people, and this is the point.
Probably you would like to, thank you very much for that, Professor Rudesko. I suppose you would like to add something too about that question, and then we'll go to your question, of course.
Okay.
Please.
Of course, I would say the worldwide brain power patterns will change, but you don't have to look only on size and people who are engaged in some research topics or in some research directions. I'll give you a very small example from my own business career. So I was a business consultant so many years ago, and we were a small, very creative group, only 10 people, and our competitors were always the big four, and we were always the winners. Because so we have always the opportunity, if you have a large corporation or a large competitor, to win, because it's based at the end of your own creativity, of your own ideas, and then you can even getting better from a very small position. So you see the answer, I get that big and large thinking is small is beautiful. You know, that was
and
the
quick.
slogan so many years ago. However,
and
of course the educational pattern will change dramatically, and I will do that with my university, DKU, as well in the upcoming years, because currently, the teaching is based on what I would say on a classical approach. Most of it is on classroom, etc. Of course, we're going outside the classroom. We have an application-oriented university. Our students should have an industrial experience and background to understand the practical world. But in future time, of course, we will have a combination of what we call a hybrid study degree program, which is a combination of online courses, of classrooms, of summer schools, where international students are coming together. So this will be a really different learning approach, because basic learning and knowledge, of course, you will get out of the internet. You don't need your teacher. So the learning curve you have to tackle and to master will be different for the next generation. Second thing, what is very important in that situation, that we have really a combination of, I would say, basic knowledge you have to learn, which is really knowledge which you can keep in mind and you have next 20 or 30 years. This is the basic of your academic education, and this must be integrated with, I would say, more knowledge of the methods, how to assess an issue, how to find the critical points out, how to find your own creativity to find a new solution for that. And so I would like to design at the end some kinds of strategy programs, of course, that we have in the first years for learning the basics, and afterwards you must have a more integrated approach. We are bringing together from very different perspectives people, specialization fields, because this keeps you in a situation where you have to reflect the outcome of your learning. And this is very important for your career in the upcoming years. You must not only know some basics, you must be in a way a very analytical and critical and same creative person to be successful in that environment.
Thank you very much. We have still one question from the audience, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, since the title of the session about link between European Union and Central Asia, my question is, so of course for Central Asia, European Union is a great trading partner because, like you said, high income customer. So for European Union, from European Union perspective, what makes Central Asia attractive? So for example, we have many students here who tomorrow will go and say to European Union, let's do partnering, right? And they need to know advantage. Why should Europeans partner with Central Asia? What makes advantage, like low cost, reliability, or something else? Thank you.
To go with?
Yeah.
Thank you. The first thing you mentioned yourself, it's young people. I mean, you know probably about the population rates in the European countries, and you are aware of the fact that most of the countries do have an elderly population. And we are lacking young people just carrying on. And if production, for instance, I pointed out before, is leaving the country, Germany or France or somewhere else, and goes to a country where a lot of young people are, and we can transfer our technology knowledge, and we can find engaged and ambitious young people in other countries, and preferably sandwich countries instead of high powers, actually. This is the preference. Then there might be some interesting projects in the economic field really being productive for both sides, because we keep up the pace, so we don't have enough young people, and you are quicker because of the technology transfer, but you have the young people to carry the flag on. And I like that perspective. And one has to combine that with prosperity for both sides. This is, you have a win-win situation or you don't have a good situation. That's my point of view. And the Europeans are aware of that fact, and they are looking around. Then you see Africa and the Arab countries, a lot of young people. Education is a problem sometimes not. It depends on the country. You have difficult political situations sometimes. Nobody really wants to invest if you don't know whether your investment will pay off. So if you have a stable situation, a political stable situation, this is preferred, of course. Investments take time, and if there is a return of investment, it might take more than 10 years if it is in industries. So this is important as well. And you are offering this. You are offering this. So it is interesting to us, of course. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Still some other questions from the audience, please? We still have some couple of minutes.
Oh.
5 minutes still. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Rovshan Mahmudov, a Senior Capacity Building Specialist at the CAREC Institute. All of us, many of their participants are students, but some of us researchers, and it would be better to get your recommendation for researchers, which areas should be taken by the researchers to analyze, to examine regarding the relationship between Europe and Asia. Thank you very much.
We will have a lot of very interesting research topics in the upcoming years, which are very important to, I would say, to bridge Europe and Central Asia. That starts from when I'm talking about social science. Really, we have a lot of gaps regarding assessment of situation, understanding of political systems. So, of course, there are always a language barrier because most of the publications are in Central Asia, published in Russian. So they are outside the English world. That's not good. So you don't have a really transfer of assessment, the real situation, what's going on in Central Asia, what are the political implications, what are the social implications. This is really very, very important research topic from my perspective. Of course, the other is when I'm talking about in the field like engineering, technologies, it's a matter of adaptation of technologies. Because what is here needed is what we have done in every industrial country. You have some theoretical approaches, but does not mean that those systems are practically running. So this is, of course, always a topic of research activities which must be solved, particularly when they're looking at the economic development of that country and the social development. Then such a knowledge and application-oriented engineering and technology approaches, it's more than important. Of course, then you have other fields where it's very interesting to go ahead with research activities in all different kinds of subjects. Currently, I know the major interest from when I'm talking about the Kazakh government. Okay, we saw we had a lot of young people who get training and education in business and social science. That's not the future. We need more technology research and technology and engineering knowledge. Of course. I think that's the right approach, and there you will have a lot of the opportunities to, even if you're coming from social science, it's the integration of understanding the overall development, integration of technology development, social development, and finding out the patterns, how the society is going on.
If I may add on this, for instance, it will be very important for a lot of countries in the world to learn more about efficiency in using energy, for instance, in using pre-products or different materials to make your products from, just experiments with different materials, what are they like, what do they feel like, how promising they are. This is important because there will be a huge run upon all the raw materials. There are so many people in the world who want to improve their everyday life, and there will be a real run on all raw materials, and the more efficient one is able to use the raw material or the energy, the more he will be able to be within the run and not at the end. And smaller countries cannot only live on exporting raw materials. It is important to have the knowledge and have the application in industries to make the best out of a little thing. To my point of view, this is important.
Thank you very much. Still some other questions? If not, I would like to move to 2030, in 7 years, to have a vision of the future. And I would like to ask every one of you to name 3 things that are going to look very different in around 7 years due to all the changes that we are experiencing now.
In 7 years?
In 7 years, 2030.
So the crystal ball is on again. You start this time.
I'm going to start. So I see that you are hesitating, so someone had to. I would say that the first point, we are going to have in 7 years completely different culture of management. So I'm teaching management, and I saw the changes during the last 30 years due to introduction of so I start my career before mails was there and before the internet was there, and I saw how the management changed completely. Right now, but till today it was from the management that always the push means that there all the time was the managers who are distributed the work, who are making the orders and so on. Right now, with the generation of Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media and social networks, it's completely different approach of their communication, of their understanding each other, and it's going to be the huge changes in the way of management. We saw it right now is due to Corona and digitalization, but I think it's will be much more than this, because it's just right now on the very low level, not still on the top level. Means that we are going to have also the much more networks between the companies. I think I hope and I'm pretty sure it's going to be much more entrepreneurs and small size enterprises who are much more global. And the third point, in 7 years, I think we are going to have a completely different world scene. It's much more, I would say, not equal, but it's going to be not right now we see that it's not one-way world, already right, what we are mentioned by Silk Road, and I would say that we are going to have much more multilateral. So we are going to have much more center of knowledge, centers of power, centers of influencing, and it's going to be interesting and exciting.
As for me, you could just imagine 2 scenarios, the positive one and negative. So positive, actually, you know what is it, and as for negative, you should include war and Corona. So, and actually you could build all 2 scenarios by yourself, I guess. So
will be
this is
easy.
my opinion. Okay?
So I have a very small perspective. This is a perspective of the university. So in 7 years, DKU will have a campus.
Okay, yeah.
We will have increasing numbers of students, not coming only from Kazakhstan. They can come from other Central Asian countries. We will kind of Central Asian educational hub, that's my vision. And of course, we are expecting students from Europe because
I think so.
Development is growing, interest is coming to Central Asia. So we have one market, not only the Kazakh market, this is more integrated market, which is more interesting, the development of this country and the society is intense. So we see some German or other European students here not just for 1 month, for a whole study degree program.
Me? So, 3 things in 7 years. To my point of view, the Atlantic Ocean will divide the US and Europe more than it does now at the moment. The Americans will concentrate on Latin America and the Pacific approach as well. Not only Australia and Japan, but South Korea as well. If both Koreas come together, this is a huge amount of people and economic power, so there will be something like this. They will still have good contacts to marry with Europe, but not as close as it used to be. And the Europeans, we feel like the lost ones in the world, and after a while they do what they every time do when they have a huge war or something else was lost and everything is down, they rebuild again. It's the same things, the same old story. My experience of life is if something goes wrong and you have a good mindset, you start again, that's it. So they might take a new approach within the 7 years, to my point of view. And I would appreciate very much, personally, that my son is not only as he is now at the moment for 1 year in the US, but as well, for instance, in the Middle East and learn something about this as well. Would be nice if he, for instance, comes over here as well, personally.
All right, well, thank you very much for your different point of views. And I don't know if the audience has still all questions. If not, it's 10:30, and I think it's time to have a little coffee break. Thank you very much also to you, to the speakers, and also for your great questions from the audience. And I am very happy to the next presentation, and we will see us in a couple of minutes back. Thank you very much.
Dear guests, may I have your attention please for a couple of minutes? Right now we are having our group photo, so I please kindly ask you to go to the front door of our university. We'll have one quick group photo and then we'll go to the coffee break. Coffee break happens on the corridor on your right. So right now please gather at the front door of the DKU.
Das war vielleicht eine spannende 7 Jahre, ne?
Транспортных коридоров. Модерировать вторую сессию будет генеральный директор ТО «Веста Казахстан» Лазина Наталья Станиславовна.
А что, они Ярошенко взяли, да?
Также у нас есть докладчики. Это Ефрат Искалиев, председатель подкомитета транспортной логистики и перевозок НПП «Комитет». Он у нас онлайн подключится. Также господин Денис Волденвейвер, руководитель исследовательской группы «Транспортная логистика». Оксана Сорокина, генеральный директор ЦРНР Logistics. Елена Лезнецова, заместитель операционной работы логистической компании. И Ханс Холсекер, главный экономист Института САЭС. Разрешите передать слово модератору Лавину Наталье Станиславовне.
Добрый день, коллеги. Добрый день всем присутствующие сегодня на форуме, в том числе и подключившиеся онлайн. Я знаю, что у нас сегодня есть и докладчики, и участники форума, которые с нами на связи. Весь двухдневный форум посвящен коридорам, транспортным коридорам. Но именно в нашей панельной дискуссии сегодня мы посмотрим на эту проблематику с точки зрения бизнеса. Когда мы говорим о бизнесе, мы говорим не только о крупном бизнесе, мы говорим не только, например, об экспортерах сырья. Мы говорим о всем спектре товаров народного потребления. То есть все то, что мы едим, все то, что мы носим, на чем мы ездим. То есть, в конце концов, неэффективная логистика, она всегда приводит к повышению цен, к снижению ассортимента. То есть, в конце концов, эти вопросы, которые мы здесь сегодня обсуждаем, они касаются абсолютно всех присутствующих в зале. Даже если вы далеки абсолютно от мира логистики. И у нас сегодня такие замечательные спикеры, которые были уже представлены. Я думаю, что у нас будет очень интересная дискуссия, у нас будет 3 доклада. И мы также будем еще обмениваться мнениями. Если будут желающие из зала задать вопросы, пожалуйста, в конце нашей сессии мы оставим какое-то время, постараемся 10-15 минут выделить на сессию вопросов и ответов. И хочу начать с того, чтобы предоставить слово господину Искалиеву. Господин Искалиев, добрый день. Нас хорошо слышно?
Да, добрый день, спасибо. Очень хорошо слышно. Можно начать, да?
Да, конечно. Мы будем рады услышать вашу сегодняшнюю презентацию. Нам особенно интересно, потому что господин Искалиев, хочу сказать, что обладает огромным опытом в логистике, потому что уже долгое время возглавляет подкомитет по транспорту Национальной палаты предпринимателей Атамикен и входит в президиум Казлоджистикс, поэтому ваше мнение, конечно, нам очень интересно услышать. Пожалуйста.
Спасибо большое. Еще раз хотел представиться, Искалиев РК. Действительно, спасибо за представление. Большой опыт. Работал первым замом АТЛК в России, член секторов был трансконтейнера в свое время. Работал вице-президентом Константина Жове, отвечал как раз за проект Харгос, за маршруты, за логистику. Впервые введен систему, это же зам по логистике. Также вот один из разработчиков проекта «Шелкового пути», до сих пор является членом Попечительского совета Института «Шелковый путь», который занимается внедрением supply chain management и работает с китайскими разными компаниями, включая в том числе из Германии. Ну и в свое время мы очень плотно сотрудничаем с институтом, хотел бы пожелать успехов. Сегодня я занимаюсь фармацевтикой, и поэтому ближайший визит президента в Германию будет проект штата Байер, мы заводим в Казахстан, создаем фармхаб, я в дальнейшем об этом скажу. Вот, и, возможно, будет какая-то локализация этих компаний и других немецких. Вот. Так, ну, по проекту «Шелковый путь» хочу сказать, я детально занимаюсь этим проектом уже на протяжении около 8 лет. Пишу книгу «Кочевой менеджмент», где на самом деле прописываю, я в ближайшее время анонсирую этот проект, изучая детально рост и падение этого проекта глобального и как, возможно, в текущем мире он реализован мог бы быть с учетом проблем, которые существуют. Следующий слайд можно? Следующий слайд. Мне сказали, что вы будете сами представить.
Я прошу прощения, кто у нас отвечает. Все, да.
Все, спасибо.
Спасибо.
Этому слайду тоже около 8 лет. В свое время был сделан в системе КТЖ, был мастер-план по созданию транспортно-логистической компании и проекта «Шелковый путь». Что-то реализовалось, вы знаете, что тогда была Ленинград, точка отправки, который соединял портовые страны, и то, что сегодня происходит. И Чунсинь, это континентальная точка отправки, которая сегодня тоже является мощным потоком, который соединяет, так сказать, Силиконовую долину Китая с Бюрсбергом. Проект на самом деле классически понятен. Появился он благодаря сотрудничеству Deutsche Bahn, российских железных дорог, казахстанских железных дорог, Европы. Вот. И сегодня, я думаю, он бы, наверное, еще больше показателей были, если, конечно, геополитическая ситуация Но в любом случае, поскольку вы изучаете сегодня на форуме маршруты, я дальше следующий слайд можно? Хочу сказать, что это тоже слайд, резюме, так сказать, мастер-плана, который был сделан в свое время, тоже связан с прогнозами транзита через Казахстан, созданием тогда еще намечающегося маршрута север-юг. Видите, что мы исторически тяготели соединить Индию и потащить его на Европу, через Казахстан. Вот, попытки до сих пор остаются, и работа ведется. Знаете, создаются СП в индийских портах, создается работа по Ирану большая, ведется работа в том числе не только по ЖД и авто, но и авиационной доставке. Сейчас проводится работа по передаче управлением аэропорта Астаны Абу-Дабийскому аэропорту, подписан меморандум. То есть глобально эти все направления, они запланированы двигаться. Вы знаете, что в свое время транскаспийский маршрут не был сильно поддержан, и у него были много изъянов, но благодаря усилиям глобальной Интерсети, которая исторически поддерживала этот проект, создана была ассоциация TNTM, которая тоже так улучшила показатели и создала в действительности хорошую, мощную организацию, лобби, которая решила очень много вопросов с тарифами, потоками. Конечно, конкурентность прямого маршрута всегда существует, то есть два перегруза в портах Каспия, это создает определенные
course an issue as well. So it's now for 40-foot container, it's something like between $2,000 and $3,000 for this distance. I'm not a logistic guy, I'm a macroeconomist guy, so please, the real logistic guys, please correct me. However, this is also a bit of an obstacle because what we saw before, if you look at the sea freight rates, for example, from Shanghai to Rotterdam, it used to be during COVID and so on, it jumped to $4,000, which increased, of course, the interest in the middle corridor. However, it came down now to below 1,500. So one has, of course, to think of what goods are really, what goods should really be transported on the middle corridor, which are adequate price-wise, and also, I mean, it's now down the time to ship something. For example, this from I think to Istanbul, it takes now about 10 days, which is better than going via sea. However, the price is an issue, so that way I make a exclamation mark, but also a question mark on this slide. How fast we really move to exploit the middle, the Trans-Caspian corridor. The next thing is that a lot of things going on. Will not go through all of this also because I cannot read. So again, so the projection until 2027 is 10 million tons, and we are by far not there. So it's not so long to go. So there's a little bit of a question mark whether we reach this. There's also seaport construction, terminals are built in Korea and otherwise, and a lot of other initiatives.
Just curious, if we plan to increase the capacity up to 10 million, what is your assumption? What is the need? Okay, if we reach this capacity, do we expect that all the needs will be fulfilled? Or it will be only 50%, 20%? What is your assumption?
I will come back to this question in a moment, because the question is not only whether we can ship 10 million, but also the question what we really want to ship, and whether we actually really need 10 million tons, and it's 10 million tons of what. But this depends a little bit on the structure of the export from the countries. And also the transit, of course. And if I may, I come back
Sure.
to the question.
This is very good remark, by the way, because middle corridor has a lot of restrictions. You cannot move abnormal cargo, you cannot move dangerous goods, you cannot move, you can, but with a certain limitations, bulk cargo, yeah? So there are a lot of restrictions, which limits the list of commodities. But that is a very good remark. Yeah, it is. Go ahead.
And actually, I'm very curious and eager to learn from you the details on the logistics side and what. As Galiev mentioned, the middle corridor is important and is in high demand, but it's only one of the corridors. In the central corridors, which basically go from east to west, west to east, as our forum is called. I mean, in this definition of UNSCAP, of this UNSCAP paper, again, this green, we are speaking about this bluish circle. So the middle corridor is important, but we have also other corridors, and we have other corridors in development. And again, I will not go through the detail, but there's the Kazakhstan, Pakistan route now developed. You have Chinese, Tajikistan, northern Afghanistan, China, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan developed, and again Iran, Afghanistan, Kyrgyz Republic, and China. All these are political difficult corridors, of course, but they are under development, and there's railway construction from China via Kyrgyzstan to Uzbekistan, and from Pakistan to by Afghanistan to Uzbekistan. So it's a lot of going on also outside the middle corridor, even some difficult. And this means also, I come back to the remark was made before, there's the question a little bit of cooperation and competition between the countries also, and between the corridors. And I mean, from my point of view, there is some cooperation desirable, some competition as well, but not a price race to the bottom or something. So there's a bit a question of how to manage all these corridors. A second remark is about hard or soft infrastructure. If you look at the left chart, the upper curve, this is railway speed without delays. So if there were no delays, like on border crossing point and so on, you would have pretty much an increase over the last 15 years in railway speed because of the infrastructure projects and so on. However, the blue line is this delay. So if you have some obstacles, and there we don't have improvement. So what this means that not only hard infrastructure is important, it's important, so we could increase the rail speed, but it's not the only thing. You need also digitalization, which we had spoken before. We need management, coordination among countries, and so in general what we call soft infrastructure is as important as the hard infrastructure, and there we have not so much progress yet. This is measured on the CAREC corridors in general. So basically, I don't run you through the individual corridors, but basically what I showed at the beginning in this green circle. So this, let me come now to the question about what to ship more. This shows for the individual countries the earning from cross-border transportation services, and not the last column, but the one before, shows the earning in transportation services in percent of GDP. And you see it's important, like in Uzbekistan it jumped actually to 5% of GDP. Also for Georgia and some other countries, like
Kazakhstan is also about 5%, almost 5%.
No, Kazakhstan is
2.1. Yeah, 2.1.
On average of all these CAREC countries, it's 1.5%. This is everything. It's significant and not negligible. However, in our view, again, I'm an economist, and the main issue here is not the earnings from the transport service in the economic view as in general, but the reduction of trade costs and even transaction costs in general. So this brings me to the slogan, transit is good, economic corridors are better, so you should use the transport corridors using the economics of scale, but even more important, the economics of scope, so the connections in the area to develop your economy. And just to mention, ADB, the Asian Development Bank, just came out with a report about the economic corridors. ADB is kind of an inventor of the 20 years ago or so of the expression economic corridors. So you have one, again, I will not run you through it, but if you are interested, please read this report. And an important term there is functional economic area. So you use the transport corridors to build around these corridors, again, by economies of scope, some economic regions.
You correctly mentioned that it's not the question of earning, but it's also now it's up to a certain degree it's a political question, and it's a question of national security of these countries. So what is your assumption also? What is your opinion? Do you think through cooperation and through through competition, do you think that all the countries of this region are able to create a corridor which is efficient enough to make an alternative to other corridors which exist?
Yes, however, it's a high-level, intense management issue, and also Mr. Stanley mentions that you even don't have a cooperation now really to run things. So I think the answer would be in principle yes, but we are far from it, and the countries would need to have much higher coordination. I mean, we have some development in this region. For example, for the middle corridor in this direction. For example, in the middle corridor, Kazakhstan, Georgia, and Azerbaijan set up a company to operate the middle corridor. So you have for specific things, you have developments in cross-country management. So we move in this direction. However, of course, it's a complex issue, and you have the specifics of all the countries and the specific interests. So some way to go, I see.
I think it's a very honest answer. Yeah. So it's a complex issue, and it's a lot of work.
Okay. Just let me come to my few remarks on what we are transporting. So this chart basically shows in the middle or more on the right-hand side, but there are also some on the left-hand side. But if you look at the structure, the ASEAN countries in principle are more open, and also the structure of the goods they export are different, of course, like more the electronic side and more the manufacturing side. And we'll come to this in a moment. What you see here is now what the CAREC countries actually export, and as you can see, this is a lot of oil, gas in general, metals, so in general mining, and then you have a little bit of textile and food, but we are heavily tilted towards actually not very much processed, little processed mining products. I always say, for example, Mongolia exporting a lot of coal, but if not washed coal, so that really the raw coal, and it's washed in China. And of course it's a challenge to develop things, and also we have of course decarbonization going on. I show you here now who are the exporters. So the exporters, the largest exporter among the CAREC countries except China, of course. I take it out here because otherwise it dwarfs everyone else. But Kazakhstan is the largest one, followed by Azerbaijan, and so on. So and there are, of course, many preconditions, and we get discussed of this before. But this is my general view, and just let me come to my main messages, however I have to read them. Transport corridors should not only serve for transit again, but also help building economic corridors. Provide proper, and this goes now to logistics and transport logistics. Provide proper modes of transportation and services to support local businesses, and this would mean specific services for specific industries, and we've spoke about cold chain. We named cold chain already before, so we have for agri-food, for example. Pay attention to first mile and last mile issues so that local business can actually participate. So I have a question of how to organize all the stakeholders also. Send soft infrastructure and trade facilitation measures are as important as hard infrastructure. I said that before, for example, single windows and so on are important, and there should be a proper balance between corridor competition and corridor cooperation among CAREC countries. Population density, but also GDP per capita. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, very interesting presentation. Yes. Yes, please.
Being a bridge, you're being passive.
To really find new terminologies to promote some sort of participation, active approach. So we were thinking of roundabout. So you don't have to be a bridge, but you have to be a roundabout. That's what I heard of you saying basically, right? Even your first message was that. But what we were struggling and trying to find out, and we couldn't, was some of the practical and feasible steps that we could take to transform the region from a bridge into roundabout. so we can actually participate in these economic corridors. If you, as an economist, could just help us understand maybe one or two steps or feasible actions we can take.
Thanks, Ayuba. Actually, I heard the former Prime Minister, before the Taliban took over, the former Prime Minister of Afghanistan talk about the roundabout. So, no by chance you mentioned. I'm afraid I cannot more say in concrete terms than I said, and I really let the real logistic persons answer the question what to do in concrete terms. The only thing I mentioned was you have to have some management cooperation, probably even to set up specific companies for doing it, and actually a whole bunch of things like single windows, for example. But again,
I can only add that, you know, real practitioners in logistics, they live today and they save our now. But economists, they build a platform for our future.
We hope so.
Thank you. So don't underestimate the importance of the work of economists in the eyes of the practitioners. So thank you once again for interesting presentation. Я, с вашего позволения, перейду на русский. Раз господин Хольцхайфер говорил уже о том, что пора все-таки услышать мнение специалистов, работающих каждый день, да, с этой проблематикой. Хочу обратиться к двум прекрасным леди, сидящим рядом со мной. Одна из них Елена Везенцева, являющаяся заместителем директора по операционной деятельности казахстанской компании IPL Казахстан. И Оксане Сорокиной, которая является директором, опять же, и владелицей казахстанской транспортно-экспедиторской компании 7up. Вот мы услышали, с точки зрения экономических, да, показателей, то есть какова нынешняя ситуация. Очень правильное было замечание, что коридоры призваны развивать те регионы, через которые они проходят. Но у бизнеса, опять же, было вот господином Искалиевым отмечено, да, немножко другая позиция. Да? Бизнес живет здесь и сейчас, и пока мы думаем о развитии регионов, через которые пойдут коридоры будущие, мы стараемся сохранить и не потерять те страны, которые уже сейчас в торговых отношениях, а эти торговые отношения рискуют разрушиться. Да? И в частности я говорю о Евросоюзе. Опять же, в вашем отчете было указано, да, что по объему импорта в Казахстан, Центральную Азию, Европейский Союз №1. А проблема существует, так как европейские компании, естественно, соблюдают введенные санкции европейские и санкции третьих стран. И вот вся эта проблема, собственно говоря, приводит нас опять к дискуссии о среднем коридоре. Все коридоры важны, но этот коридор для бизнеса самый важный. Так что заранее прошу прощения, если мы не успеем осветить остальные. Вот хочу двум прекрасным леди, если можно, ну вот Елена, вы в белом, может быть, давайте вы скажете, да, позитивного, а Оксане оставим, как говорится, рассказать обо всех недостатках. Смотрите, как вы хотите сами, да, пожалуйста. Ну, так, да, давайте, нет, ну у нас еще один. На самом деле его доклад тоже низ. Он ладно, пока не буду забегать вперед, давайте сначала поговорим о том все-таки, ну, кто хочет начать? Давайте, благодарю вас, Елена.
Представились. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги, участники. Я немножко неожиданно оказалась в кресле спикера, попросили отсутствующего спикера заменить. Но что могу сказать, с точки зрения актуальности, средний коридор действительно сейчас востребован, и он по-прежнему остается с очень значительным узким горлом именно по Каспию. И если говорить на перспективу, то, конечно, строительство паромов, увеличение пропускной способности Каспия в этом коридоре, она сейчас всем очевидна и понятна, но как у любой медали есть две стороны, да, соответственно, и этот коридор мы рассматриваем с двух сторон. Конечно, это значительное спрямление маршрута, но обратная сторона, этот коридор имеет шансы на успех в перспективе, если будет развиваться его мультимодальность. Потому что те критические точки, о которых говорил уже Ерхат в самом начале, два перегруза, то есть два порта на этом маршруте, это не добавляет, да, преимуществ этому коридору, поэтому он будет успешен при развитии мультимодальности. То есть нам нужны паромы, которые будут перевозить груженные вагоны, и паромы, которые будут перевозить груженные машины, да, с тем, чтобы исключить физический факт перегрузки груза в этих пунктах. И, конечно, наращивание контейнерных объемов через Каспий, что тоже позволит сохранить грузы, да, исключая дополнительные физические манипуляции непосредственно с грузом. Но всем нашим желаниям и прогнозам экономистов у этого коридора есть еще и экологический аспект. Я буквально неделю назад была в Актау, и это видно невооруженным взглядом. Каспий мелеет. Даже в черте города вода ушла уже более чем на 50 метров, и это очевидно. Соответственно, снижается способность портов принимать грузы со значительной, принимать судно со значительной загрузкой, то есть снижается физическая пропускная способность этого маршрута за счет банально экологических изменений, которые происходят в регионе. Кроме того, то есть это нужно учитывать, да, из всех возможных вариантов, конечно, очень хорошо воспринимаются оптимистические сценарии, да, но на практике мы вынуждены все время балансировать где-то между негативным и реальным сценарием развития событий. Соответственно, как в любом экономическом, генерировать и поглощать потоки. Поэтому здесь я вижу момент какой, что, конечно, Казахстану нужно извлекать больше выгоды, наверное, из транзита, попутно развивая свою инфраструктуру для наращивания собственной экономики и производства. Да, Казахстан вложил очень много в этот коридор, построены дороги, но, опять же, узкое горло. Курык, современный, оснащенный паромный терминал в регионе, но к нему подходит двухполосная дорога. То есть одна полоса в одном направлении и одна полоса в другом направлении. То есть мы нарастим пропускную способность Каспия, добавим туда паромы, увеличим контейнерный поток, и все это придет на двухполосную дорогу. Да, соответственно, здесь я думаю, что действительно консолидация усилий в региональном сотрудничестве должна как-то, видимо, и экономическую составляющую подтягивать, потому что нашей стране одной строить эту инфраструктуру и поддерживать эту инфраструктуру очень и очень дорого, с учетом нашего населения, да, то есть на душу каждого казахстанца, да, то есть какой объем инвестиций должен приходиться в то, чтобы этот коридор работал. Поэтому здесь, конечно, нам этот маршрут нужен, он нам интересен, потому что через него сейчас действительно очень много импорта поступает в Казахстан. Снова но. Геополитическая ситуация меняется. Никто 5 лет назад или 10 лет назад не предполагал, что случится то, что сейчас происходит между Россией и Украиной. Я думаю, что все верят и надеются, что это закончится. Что тогда? Ведь маршрут не перестает быть более привлекательным при доставке грузов из Европы в Казахстан, тот традиционный маршрут, который сейчас не работает. Я понимаю, что многие крупные инвестиционные фонды просто не готовы рисковать крупными инвестициями в развитие Каспийского региона и наращивание объемов этого коридора просто не будучи уверенным, что он останется востребованным, когда изменится и вернется к традиционным маршрутам вся эта ситуация. Поэтому здесь мы сейчас реально находимся в такой очень интересной глобальной ситуации. Мы живем в исторический момент, да, когда 50-50, да, и хочется, и колется, и надо, и сомневаешься, нужно ли вкладываться в это направление, поэтому, ну что, если про позитив, да, коридор есть, он существует, он востребован, и я думаю, что наращивая торговый потенциал стран региона, он будет востребован даже когда вернется к функционированию северный, да, так скажем, коридор традиционный, связующий Китай и Европу, и Европу с Китаем. Поэтому нам еще бы хотелось на что обратить внимание, все-таки про конкуренцию коридоров, потому что Узбекистан, быстро растущая экономика, как это было показано на слайдах и подтверждено цифрами, и Узбекистан имеет серьезные амбиции на развитие экспортного потенциала, то есть те инвестиции в модернизацию и строительство промышленных предприятий в Узбекистане, которые случились за последние лет 10, наверное, они, пожалуй, тоже самые значительные в регионе. И в этом случае Узбекистан отчасти зависит в транспортной составляющей от Казахстана. Соответственно, здесь вот эта коллаборация и объединение усилий Казахстана и Узбекистана, как ближайших соседей с юга, она тоже дает перспективу этому маршруту, потому что у Узбекистана не такой большой выбор в части экспорта своих товаров в Европу. И хотелось бы, конечно, чтобы Казахстан сохранил привлекательность своего маршрута для Узбекистана в том числе, но не забывая, естественно, про свой экспорт. Вот, поэтому прошу прощения, если, может быть, у меня как-то сумбурно получилось выступление, это была импровизация, поэтому у меня все.
На самом деле хочу сказать, что очень емко, очень по делу. Вы буквально за 5 минут все, как говорится, болевые точки нажали сразу. Из позитивного хочу отметить, что сейчас у этого коридора большое конкурентное преимущество, которое незаслуженно им относительно его технических характеристик, да, но здесь играет роль политическая воля. Как китайский маршрут, значит, One Belt, One Road, да, то есть это тоже была политическая воля, тогда он был не конкурентоспособен относительно морского пути, но он заработал. И здесь вы сказали, многие инвесторы не хотят сейчас, не то что не хотят, раздумывают, стоит ли вкладываться, если, как говорится, конфликт завершится и северный коридор вернется все маршруты, а он гораздо удобнее, он полностью сухопутный и так далее. А я вам задам другой вопрос. Мы договорились говорить и о плюсах, и минусах. А представьте, если северный коридор будет полностью заблокирован, а Центральноазиатский регион не имеет прямого выхода к морю. Каспий фактически является озером. Выход к морю у нас только через Волгодонский канал, который тоже территория России. Не считаете ли вы, что это вообще вопрос национальной безопасности стран Центральной Азии? То есть мы же будем отрезаны от того же Евросоюза, мы не сможем торговать с Германией, мы не сможем ей поставлять экспорт, не сможем от нее получать импорт, а Германия, скажем, поставляет огромное количество запчастей, машиностроения, автомобилестроения, все, что относится где-то вокруг этих, скажем, отраслей. То есть это вопрос национальной безопасности, если регион не имеет собственных портов и собственного выхода к морю и фактически зависит от своих ближайших соседей, да? Ну вот если позволите, Елена, я еще дам возможность Оксане на этот вопрос, да, ответить. Вот, Оксана, ваше мнение?
Ну, мое мнение таково, что альтернатива всегда быть должна. Я очень рада тому, что у нас есть средний коридор, но север нам тоже нужен. Во-первых, нужно смотреть на коммерческие связи, которые имеют Казахстан и страны Центральной Азии с Европой. И основные торговые компании и в сторону экспорта, и в сторону импорта – это Бельгия, это Нидерланды, это Польша, это Германия. Вести груз средним коридором из этих стран как минимум нелогично. Во-вторых, есть большая категория грузов, которые требуют короткого срока доставки. Мы говорим о медикаментах, мы говорим о саженцах, мы говорим о каких-то пестицидах и так далее. Они просто технически не выдержат тот срок доставки, который сейчас нам дает средний коридор от 32 до 45 дней. Третий момент – это экономическая составляющая. Абсолютно логично, что средний коридор, он гораздо дороже. Во-первых, у нас больше количество границ, у нас больше километраж идет, у нас есть перегрузы и так далее. Это все ложится на конечную стоимость продукта. И когда мы приходим в магазин, и мы что-то не можем себе позволить, это одна из причин, это то, что у нас есть проблемы с логистикой. Мы все это наблюдали в 2021 году, когда у нас был транспортный коллапс с Китаем. И вот это было показательно. То есть у нас есть только 2 пункта пропуска, окей, местами 2,5, и мы зависим от решения китайской стороны, ехать или не ехать. В результате все лето мы остаемся без кондиционеров, у нас ноутбуки, холодильники стоят как крыло от Боинга, и у нас снижается покупательская способность. Сейчас вот опасность закрытия северного коридора в том, что да, мы становимся зависимы от наших соседей. Мало того, что как бы сам по себе Каспий, он не только экологические проблемы имеет, это стихия, в конце концов, там шторма бывают. Если шторм, соответственно, эти паромы не ездят. Второй момент – это то, что уже мы столкнулись все с тем, что 10 и 11 пакет санкций вызвал очень большой рост цен со стороны Азербайджана. И на паром, и на проезд по дорогам. Если мы закрываем полностью северный коридор, окей, у нас остается есть еще южный, но южный коридор – это Афганистан, это Ирак. Это страны, которые с точки зрения санкций для нас точно так же опасны. У нас остается только средний коридор, который почти на 80% дороже, он в 2 раза дольше. И любой конфликт, любая проблема, и весь наш регион остается в состоянии изоляции. Я предполагаю, что те, кто работает сейчас активно по среднему коридору, и на этой неделе, и на прошлой неделе, слегка побеспокоились, когда пошел вопрос конфликта в Карабахе. У меня первая мысль была, а что мне делать с машинами, которые у меня уже в дороге? Следующий момент, не забывайте, что все-таки пропускная способность балтийских портов, она гораздо выше. И платформа у них гораздо больше, нежели мы говорим про порт Стамбул или порт Поти. В Поти сейчас из-за нехватки платформ среднее ожидание до 3 недель. То есть 3 недели отсутствия груза, 3 недели заморозки денег, 3 недели штрафов за срывы поставки и доп. Расходы и так далее. Средний коридор нам все равно нужен. Как альтернатива, как вариант доставки гражданских грузов, тех, которые имеют за собой невысокую стоимость, но которые при этом нам нужны. И тогда, в принципе, это будет хороший толчок и, наверное, для среднего коридора, потому что, как господин Искалиев сказал, как другие спикеры говорили, коридоры должны между собой конкурировать. Если у нас не будет конкуренции со стороны северного коридора, средний коридор сможет цену умножать и в 3, и в 4 раза, и нам все равно придется грузовозить. Другое дело, что мы не сможем потом себе позволить купить даже какие-то элементарные вещи.
Оксана, большое спасибо. Знаете, коллеги из Грузии мне недавно выслали, говорят, у нас местная шутка, у нас, говорит, кораблей в порту Поти больше, чем такси в городе. То есть вот такие теперь шутки у логистов. Правильно вы говорите о конкуренции, да, то есть простое, опять же, такое выражение, нельзя складывать яйца в одну корзину, да. Сейчас получается, что мы сложили или намереваемся сложить яйца в одну корзину, но у корзины ручка прохудилась, и кажется, дно тоже как бы не очень-то выдерживает, да. Но при этом я опять же хочу отметить, да, то есть у этого коридора есть огромное преимущество, которое нет ни у какого коридора. Это временной отрезок, когда они могут использовать это себе на пользу. Да? И, соответственно, все те страны, через которые этот коридор проходит, и, соответственно, получить развитие, а мы уже это видим. Да? И Азербайджан, и Грузия. То есть Грузия в плане логистики никогда не была центром мира. А сейчас там в этой отрасли занято такое количество людей, там нехватка рук, там нужны специалисты. Актау, вы знаете, я думаю, большинство знает, да, что КНУ открыл филиал в Актау. Актау тот регион, где логистов всегда не хватало. Там всегда были проблемы с логистическими кадрами. Вот смотрите, стал регион критически важным, да, и там открывается филиал такого вуза, как КНУ, да. И, естественно, то есть ребята из Актау будут иметь возможность получить образование и, соответственно, потом, как говорится, использовать эти знания для того, чтобы... не боги горшки обжигают, да, это нам кажется, что кто-то где-то, а это вот те ребята, которые сейчас студенты, они будут работать в том регионе, обслуживать этот порт. Правильно? Да.
Спикер.
К сожалению, как говорится, я говорю, на тему коридоров можно говорить очень долго. У нас еще один докладчик, господин Волен Вебер, его доклад на тему городской логистики. Мы дискутировали до данной панельной сессии, да, и господин Волен Вебер сказал, что это не совсем о коридорах, но это важная тема. А я ему возразила, что нет, это совсем о коридорах. И я сейчас поясню, что я имела в виду. Дело в том, что мы наблюдаем сейчас в связи с развитием того же среднего коридора. Раньше для стран СНГ логистический хаб всех транснациональных компаний находился в Российской Федерации. Сейчас этот хаб перемещается в Центральную Азию. Либо в Казахстан, либо в Узбекистан, в большей степени, наверное, все-таки Казахстан. Соответственно, все из Европейского Союза, с Юго-Восточной Азии стекается сюда, и потом уже распределяется по разным странам Центральной Азии. Вот эти компании, агрегаторы, скажем, для небольших заказов, да, то есть оптовые компании, они сосредотачиваются сейчас в этом регионе. И как результат мы видим рост, во-первых, перевозок внутри Центральной Азии, которого никогда не видели, рост перевозок внутри, например, Казахстана, и самое удивительное, рост перевозок внутри города. Вы знаете, тут много факторов наложилось, и цифровизация, и коммерция, и так далее, но и коридоры тоже повлияли на эту тенденцию. И я хотела бы вам дать слово, чтобы вы нам сказали о том, какие тренды сейчас именно в городской логистике, потому что это тоже болезненная для нас тема, потому что очень новая. Мы только-только начинаем, как говорится, наводить порядок в этой тематике.
Yeah, thank you very much for this kind introduction. Good day, everybody, and thanks for joining this conference today. Yes, I have some presentation also prepared, and I would like to talk about urban logistics. This topic is for Europe. It's not really new. In the 1990s, so almost 30 years ago, we had this topic already under the label of city logistics, which was not quite that successful. But it came back in the 2020s, and I would like to talk about this topic a little. When we have a look at the next slide for a short motivation here, when we look into our future in 2050, so less than 30 years in future, out of the around 10 billion people worldwide, it is expected that 6.4 billion people will live in cities. So therefore, we have a lot of challenges, and we are looking at these challenges not only for logistics, but also for mobility, individual as well as public transport. Urban logistics tries to deal with the challenges in cities, and the most important ones are, of course, you know, we have an issue about air pollution in cities. So, for instance, fine particles, which causes cardio diseases and other diseases. We have congestion in cities, of course. Logistics and transportation needs streets, land consumption. In the European Union, we have around 50% of the public space in cities consumed by streets. We have safety issues in the cities. 67% of all traffic incidents happen in cities, so this is also an issue. We have, of course, noise and light pollution, and we have, consequently, climate change issues. So logistics is responsible for 20 to 40% of this negative external effects. Mobility also has an additional share, and therefore it is worth to think about this. As you know, logistics is a subject, a topic which is in many times driven by efficiency, and the market solves the issues in many cases. In urban logistics, it's quite different because the market is somehow not working properly because we have other goals compared to efficiency in terms of costs, in terms of speed, and therefore there are other actions required. There are a couple of players which play a role in urban logistics. For instance, we have the citizens, which are consumers and need or have need of transportation, and they have also need of receiving goods, mainly by parcel services. We have the commerce, the retail stores in the cities. We have logistics providers which try to fulfill these needs, and of course we have the government, we have the politics which try to regulate traffic in cities. Derived from this, we have a couple of action fields, and we don't need to go into all of the 5 of these fields. Basically, in urban logistics, you can, at a high level, distinguish your actions in 3 areas. The first one, which I won't discuss in detail, is when you build new cities, when you build new suburban areas and so on. You can do this by a good planning, environmentally efficient planning. This is possible, but you know there are already cities around, and it's not an option to rebuild cities in many cases. So this action is important, but does not work for already existing ones. And then we have also measures by government, which I will discuss in the next slides. And we have also options which can be solved by logistics companies, which will be my second example. One very popular action is the action of governments to restrict the traffic in cities. And one very famous example is the city of London, one of the biggest cities in Europe, with in the metropolitan area around 10 million people living there. And what they did around 20 years ago was they had introduced a toll system for the city. What you can see here on the map, the very small area in the inner city is the so-called congestion charge zone. This is a zone when you want to drive into this zone with a motor-driven vehicle, then you have today a daily toll about 15 pounds per day. It's not too much, but it is some money you have to pay. And this was the first measure to restrict access. In the years after, they introduced two additional zones, the ultra-low emission zone and the low emission zone. The map you can see here is not, actually it's not the recent map, because the smaller zone, the second smallest zone, the ultra-low emission zone, has been increased this year to the area of this biggest zone here. And in a nutshell, these zones are zones which are mainly important for vans, for trucks, and also for some kinds of buses. And you have to pay an additional toll to enter these zones when you have certain types of trucks and buses which are not holding a certain level of emission. So you might know in Europe all vehicles are classified by their pollution they are doing, so by the CO2 emission and other emissions. And if your vehicle is not environmentally friendly enough, then you have to pay here an additional fee. And most important is this low emission zone fee, which is for heavy vehicles which have a pretty bad emission class, and there you have to pay about for some vehicles 100 pounds per day, and for other vehicles 300 pounds per day. So what happens from this emission zones here? Of course, what we can expect is that less vehicles will enter the city, and for the smallest zone, for the congestion charge zone, we have also some numbers here. So before this zone was introduced in 1999, we had a daily traffic of around 140,000 vehicles per day in this zone, and in the last years this decreased to a little more than 50,000 vehicles per day. This is a very expected result. Also, they try to see what happens to congestion, for instance, and the congestion has decreased, not that much, but it is less than 20% congestion, or it's a decrease of 20% to the situation before. The retail stores in this zone had to suffer a little, but this is something which could be handled. It was a little 2 or 3% drop in sales in this inner city zone, but that's quite okay. Other cities have followed this example. So the first adopters were in Norway, it was Oslo, in Italy it was Milan, and in Singapore also has these zones, and in other cities we have nowadays also this restriction. Of course, restrictions by government work. They are sometimes not the best ones, but they work, like in this case here. A second example, what happens in urban logistics is that the cities and the logistic providers try to pollute the cities less by their traffic, And when we look at, in particular, to parcel services like DHL, FedEx, UPS, and all the players we know here, we know in a classical city we have the situation that we have 5 to 10 different parcel companies who enter the city and distribute their parcels to the customers. This, of course, is kind of inefficient in terms of vehicle utilization, and it is also, of course, not so nice for this inner city infrastructure, because when we have a lot of vehicles driving and also parking in the second lanes of the cities, this causes negative effects. A very popular new development is to use freight bikes or cargo bikes to do the last mile delivery. And there are a lot of projects going on in Europe and I think also in North America. And the basic idea is that there is not a conventional combustion engine vehicle doing the delivery in the cities, but separating this last mile into a so-called penultimate mile and the very last mile. The penultimate mile is still supplied by conventional vehicles who serve so-called micro depots or micro hubs in the city. This could be, for instance, a container which can also be moved, and there a fleet of cargo bikes starts from this micro hub and does the very last mile, does the actual delivery to the customers. So this is a new concept, and there are a lot of people working on it, and you can see here, or you could, it's quite small, but we can see it here. For instance, here I have five projects which are conducted or have been conducted in Germany in different cities with different freight forwarding companies. And basically they proved that this concept worked. So what they observed is that, of course, the vehicles itself need less requirements. So we have a typical cargo bike which can cover a distance of about 20 to 30 kilometers in the city for delivery, and can also carry a load of around 200, sometimes 250 kilograms, which is quite enough for parcels. We have, of course, no direct emissions and also less noise in the city. And also a concept they tried in several projects is if you have the parcel companies cooperating, then of course the routes they are doing for delivery are far more, they are better utilized than if they do it separately, and therefore this is also an effect we can measure. Of course, the limited range of the cargo bikes is a disadvantage, and also the additional split in our last mile delivery by having another handling in this micro depot is also a small disadvantage, but I think the concept works pretty much and is something for the future. Of course, I started my talk about some remarks about how the market works and how efficiency in logistics is important. Of course, we can see here these examples, the governmental intervention setting tolls for the entering the city is nothing what the market solves, it's an external intervention. And also this concept of cargo bikes and micro hubs is also something which is in terms of efficiency, if you measure this with speed and total delivery cost, this is not the most efficient way. But yeah, I think it's kind of the future when governments want to follow the climate goals, want to follow the Kyoto Protocol and stuff like this. This will be kind of the future, and also maybe governments will demand that companies have to cooperate when they want to deliver in the cities, and maybe we will see not only science or scientific projects in the future, but also projects which will take place as the normal situation with less traffic and less pollution in the city.
So Almaty has all the changes to become next London, in terms of urban logistics, I mean.
Yeah, so when you walk around the city, you can obviously see that that there are that there is lots of traffic on the streets and
traffic jams.
And traffic jams, and so at least there is a huge potential.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We plan to have 15 minutes for questions, but okay, always we are out of time. Yeah, I think all panel discussions are like that. If anybody is willing to ask a question to our speakers, yes, please.
Thank you very much. Роман Могилевский, Азиатский банк развития. Была прекрасная дискуссия. Так, лучше, да? Спасибо. Была очень хорошая дискуссия насчет среднего коридора и всех аспектов этого. И важная мысль была выявлена, что нужна конкуренция и выбор между маршрутами. В этой связи один только раз, и скорее в негативном аспекте, была затронута возможность транспортировки через Китай. Я в данном случае хочу сказать не в Китай сам, а через Китай в китайские порты и дальше куда-нибудь. Опять же, может быть, в нормальных ситуациях это будет только для некоторых направлений актуально, но если будет очень сложная ситуация, которую мы не можем исключать, что вы думаете? Этот вариант, он вообще жизнеспособный, он интересен?
А кому бы вы хотели адресовать ваш вопрос?
Ну вот, любой из дам, которые по этому поводу говорили, да, кто готов, кто хочет.
Елена, хотите ответить?
Пожалуйста.
Да, работает. Ну, на самом деле, просто традиционно потоки идут из Китая, да, и мы, может быть, не столь сильно уделяем внимание такой альтернативе, что все-таки через Китай можно уйти и в Европу добраться. Вот, поэтому, конечно, тут больше на уровне дипломатии и политических договоренностей между странами. Китай для нас стратегически важный партнер, сосед, и я думаю, что эта альтернатива для нас всегда будет сохранена. Тем более, что специфика грузопотоков, да, вот их эта однонаправленность, конечно, тоже не добавляет привлекательности логистики с точки зрения суммарных затрат. Да? То есть если у нас есть порожний контейнер, порожний вагон, который возвращается пустой, это затраты в воздух, да? То есть мы возим воздух, но несем эксплуатационные расходы по дороге. Соответственно, конечно, загружать обратные направления, это, конечно, перспектива. И в этой части, наверное, и, кстати, хорошая идея, да, можно посмотреть, может быть, это и будет не так дорого, да, это будет дольше по срокам, однозначно, но при альтернативе ничего, пусть это будет долго, но зато это будет возможно, да, то есть мы же всегда в решении логистических задач, вот со студентами мы эти вопросы разбираем, исходим из того, какой из факторов стоит в приоритете при решении той или иной логистической задачи. Сроки, деньги, надежность, да, то есть что-то еще. Поэтому это вполне возможно. И кроме того, вот Оксана тоже упомянула, что самый южный коридор, который сейчас он еще только в планах, да, Китай еще только собирается в ближайшие годы инвестировать в строительство дороги, да, которая пойдет из Кашгара, Андижан, то есть зайдет через Узбекистан, через Кыргызстан и в Узбекистан, да, с тем, чтобы сократить путь доставки грузов, опять же, в Узбекистан, который сейчас зависит от Казахстана в части доставки грузов из Китая. Соответственно, я думаю, что Китай в том числе это делает с перспективой получить обратную загрузку продукции, которая будет производиться в Узбекистане для того, чтобы отправляться и в Китай, и, может быть, транзитом через Китай в другие страны АСЕАНа, да, то есть региона Asia-Pacific, да, и, вот. Поэтому, знаете, я часто вспоминаю реплику одного из студентов, который мне однажды заявил, что Елена, знаете, у логистики вообще нет будущего. Ну, в смысле, в том виде, в котором она сейчас, и вот эти все ваши коридоры, маршруты. Я
была уверена, что у меня очень стабильная специальность логистика. Его ответ был, как только изобретут телепорт, вот эти ваши все маршруты, коридоры, все это будет не актуально. Я думаю, ну ладно, но к телепорту как-то все равно надо будет добраться, поэтому вот последняя миля и городская логистика, да, когда нужно добраться до телепорта, все-таки останется востребованной. Так что, может быть, действительно будущее за телепортом и за физиками, которые его изобретут.
Ну, блестящий ответ, на самом деле. Даже не хочется портить эту такую красивую финальную ноту Китаю. Да, то есть Елена правильно отметила, что есть, да, воля, и этот коридор для экспорта из Центральной Азии, возможно, прекрасен, но в обратную сторону он совершенно не будет работать. Опять же, потому что нас мало, мы маленький рынок, непривлекательный относительно других Европейского Союза. Раньше, да, то есть через Казахстан шел весь транзит в Европу, а все казахстанские грузы стояли. А сейчас идет весь транзит в Россию, и казахстанские грузы тоже, так говорится, ну, сейчас не стоят, но под угрозой того, что тоже могут встать. Да, то есть, ну, наверное, все-таки давайте не будем, да,
о грустном.
Да, не будем о грустном, давайте закончим все-таки на хорошей ноте, да. Ждем, в общем, телепорта.
Да, как минимум.
Да, давайте, будем ждать телепорта. Ну, и я думаю, что если, вот буквально у нас еще одна минутка, мы вообще на 15 минут задержались, да, но если кто-то желает, или я могу уже официально завершить эту сессию и да, поблагодарить наших сегодняшних спикеров за то, что они пришли, за то, что они выступили. Большое спасибо аудитории, да, за активное участие. И я думаю, что вот уже у нас по плану, по-моему, обед. Да? Все верно? Нет. Еще сессия, да, тогда прошу прощения. Но эту сессию мы завершаем. Да, большое спасибо.
Да, спасибо большое. Благодарим всех спикеров. Наталья Станиславовна, вам большое спасибо, что провели данную сессию. И перед обедом по программе я бы хотел слово передать Дине Ашгалиеве, это старший научный сотрудник Азиатского института Азиатского банка развития. Пожалуйста, Дина, вам слово.
Спасибо большое. Недолго, 10 минут. Thank you very much. I'll give a short, quick presentation, 10 minutes only before lunch break. I'll give it in English. Why? Because I'm aiming our researchers. Mainly we have paper offers this afternoon, but anyone who is doing research, interested to do master, PhD, publications, academia, so any researchers, this should know. So my presentation today about this, I will focus mainly on copyright, like what do you need to know? Many people somehow they learn at university, right? Quantitative skills, writing skills, but people forget about these issues with copyright. Okay? So at ATPI we have on the website, this is open access, anyone can go to this link. We have all the resources, which is although it's written ATBI requirements or ATB guidance, but actually they are common for any journal. If you go Elsevier, Routledge, any publisher, these are the same requirements, quite similar. Okay. So here all the useful links, please, anyone can check it. It's all open access. So first I want to highlight here that the papers, whenever you submit for publications, the papers which you write, they should be original, not published, not considered for publication elsewhere. And we usually, for that, we check using Authenticate software to check for potential plagiarism. But we cannot just use Authenticate like whatever it shows. Sometimes Authenticate shows 85%, but the paper is publishable, it's fine. And sometimes Authenticate shows 10%, and actually, no, it cannot be published. So Authenticate is just the software, but we need to use human eyes to understand what does it mean, okay? Also, all tables and figures need to include source. Why? Because they could be copyright protected. So sometimes people, they say, oh, I made this figure, I made this table, but when you publish it somewhere, whenever you publish, you're passing your copyright to the journal, and this table or this figure doesn't belong to you anymore. So that's it. You cannot use it again just because you drew it, let's say, a few months ago and it's published by a journal. So if you submitted paper to, let's say, Elsevier, somewhere, publishing house, you are signing agreement, I'm passing copyright to the journal. That's it. This table figure does not belong to you. So if you reuse it, you have to check copyright. So only when this figure table never ever was published before, then you can say, it's my own, okay to publish, you don't need to ask copyright anyone. So usually what I like to do, every time I draw a new figure, I make a new table, then I know no issues with copyright. But if you copy from somewhere, many people think, oh, I'll just put source, and this name, it's from this source. Do you think this is enough? No, this is not enough. So source you always have to include, but this is not enough to protect from copyright, okay? So it offers responsibility to obtain necessary copyright. If you go to any journal, any publisher, they'll write, authors must get copyright. And when you submit to journal, you sign it, you say, I did obtain all necessary copyright, and it's my responsibility. So actually many people, maybe you don't pay attention when you submit to journal, but every journal, every publisher, this is a requirement. Even from own publication previously, okay? Then there are some other ADB specific country names, so we pay attention how country call. So people often call, for example, China, but we need the full name, People's Republic of China. For example, many people call Kyrgyzstan, but the official name, the Republic of Kyrgyz. The Kyrgyz Republic, sorry. The Kyrgyz Republic. So please, always, when you use country name, we have a list of country names, how they should be in your publication, okay? So please check here, we have you. Okay, so advantage of publishing with ATBI, actually, when you submit publications to us, we do proofreading at no cost. Actually, all papers submitted to us, we do proofreading, and it doesn't cost anyone, we don't charge for that. So we do Authenticate check and we do proofreading, no cost. You can check also those who want to publish, so please check our sample working paper, sample books. And like Hans mentioned, we have these books on Trans-Caspian Corridor, so please check our book on Trans-Caspian Corridor. Okay, so copyright now. Many people forget about this copyright issue. This is very, very important. We all researchers have to respect it. So what it says, then I'll put it here. So this is here, written, third point. A longer piece of text, drawing, or photograph, or graphical representation may be only used if copyright owner has given specific permission to reproduce work. So let's say you found a journal article and you like this graph on the or figure, right? So can you just copy paste and put in your paper and say citation, cited, I got it from this journal? Is it enough? No, it's not enough. Many people think this is enough, but this is not enough. So what you need to check with journal. Does journal allow it or no? If journal does not allow, then another option, we can ask copyright owner you can ask, could I please publish it elsewhere, this your graph? And then you get written confirmation, yes, we are allowed to do so, then you're okay. Without that, this is time consuming, I know, so that's why for most people I recommend, if you are not sure about copyright, because it takes time to check, takes time to request it. I requested many times, sometimes I get rejected, they say, no, we don't allow you to use our photo, so then I cannot use it. So this is time consuming, right? So I'd say many people that if you're not sure, just remove it. If you don't have to check it properly, if you don't have time to ask permission, just remove it. That's it. Draw your own, take your own photo, make your own graph, make your own table. That's the safest way if you don't have time. If you really need to use, this is the only graph or photograph you want to use it, you need to follow these rules, okay? Citation is never enough. It's necessary but not sufficient. So many people say, oh, I cited. No, it's not enough. The copyright permission is needed, okay? So here the source again, you can follow it. Okay, so when you supply documents, you saying that all necessary approval for copyright holders obtained. Okay, so you always, when you submit to journals, you actually do it. You just maybe don't notice it. But this is compulsory for all publications. Example how to obtain permission. In one of our submissions for this project, I saw some material from The Economist. Do you know journal The Economist, right? You know all of you. So, and then I saw someone using like graphs or photographs, I don't know, from Economist. So then I want to point you, for example, The Economist, all materials protected by copyright. Can I reuse a chart or map from The Economist? Yes, please submit your request for copyright. And the fee will be charged. So of course, if The Economist will notice you use their graph without asking copyright, and especially they're charging for that, they will be very upset. Okay? So this is very important. They're making money out of this, so you have to pay them and get their permission. So you're buying permission, basically. So if they find that you're using without asking at no cost, not without paying, they'll be very upset. Can I use extract of articles? So it's written that all license, please contact us. And if you have any question about extract use, we do not allow editing or abridgment of our work. So you see, and then they give a link which you can use to obtain permission. But as I said, this is time consuming. So if you don't have time to follow all these rules properly, then don't use someone's material. Okay, then another one. This is very popular publisher. Do you know Elsevier? The publishing house, Elsevier, many good journals published here. So here, when you take paper from journal published by Elsevier, also chances very high they are protected by copyright. It's written here, as a general rule, permission should be obtained from rights copyright holder to reproduce any substantial part of work. This includes any text, illustration, charts, tables, photographs from published sources. Obtaining permission to reuse content published by Elsevier is simple. Follow, and then they give you a link to follow permission. Okay? So for some publishers, they give you instructions. Some publishers don't give instructions, but doesn't mean you can just use it. You have to follow copyright. Okay? Then, any questions? So, have you heard about this copyright issue before or not? Yeah. So I hope you learned. Any questions about that?
I have a question. Do you have any open call for articles right now?
Yes, please follow on adbi.org. This is our website, just adbi.org. And we always have many open calls for papers, which there are many topics. And the easiest way, subscribe to ADBI newsletters. If you subscribe, you will get monthly newsletters and all for papers, and then you don't miss it. Okay? Please go to adbi.org website. Thank you, Elima, for your great question. On ADBI website, we have such. Okay. CAREC Institute, yes. Advertise.
Thank you very much. We also have, not now, but please visit our website. We also have column for a paper, please visit our website.
And we have a newsletter.
Yeah, sign up for a newsletter. CAREC website, how it sounds? CAREC. CARECinstitute.org and ATPI.org. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great lunch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you dear guests for coming. We are right now having our lunch break, so there will be a division. All of the delegates, the speakers, presenters will go to the Frau Irma to have our lunch. And for our students, we have lunch prepared at the same area.